Right, Gaurav, as we speak at this moment, the matter has been filed in the High Court. Karnataka High Court is taking up a petition filed by the Muslim side, Anjuman-e-Islam. Basically, right after information came in from the Supreme Court, asking the Karnataka government to hold on to the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations at the Idgah Maidan, declaring status quo. Anjuman-e-Islam has now appealed to the High Court in Karnataka, saying that Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations should not happen even in the Hubli Idgah Maidan, considering that the Supreme Court's reference point for Bengaluru's Idgah Maidan has entirely changed the dynamics of the situation. And looking at what the Supreme Court said with regards to the Idgah Maidan in Chamrajpet, Bengaluru, asking for status quo, Anjuman-e-Islam now petitioning at the Karnataka High Court, saying that even in Hubli Idgah Maidan, same status quo must be maintained. Ganesh Chaturthi celebration should not be allowed, and this development comes right after the afternoon Supreme Court order asking for status quo at the Bengaluru Maidan. Remember, Gaurav, we are looking at high security deployed at both the Idgah Maidans in Bengaluru as well in Hubli. Hubli, already the district administration had made large-scale preparations at the Idgah Maidan for 3-day festivities of Ganesh Chaturthi. Okay. And now it appears a late-night hearing in the Karnataka High Court would really put an end to whether or not Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations will be celebrated tomorrow post the Supreme Court's order.
Keep tracking that story, Nabila. I will come back to you for more. For the moment, many thanks. Our top story, the situation in Pakistan, extremely desperate. 33 million people impacted by the floods and the torrential rain. More than 1,100 people feared killed, and many, sadly, still unaccounted for. Roads, bridges, homes and crops have been destroyed. Pakistan needs both food and potable water. Pakistan's army chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, has made a very desperate appeal for help. Pakistan is exploring the idea of opening the border with India to seek food, vegetables and other edible items. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his condolences for lives lost in Pakistan, and he's wished the country well. The question is, should India extend financial and material help? We bring you this report.
A massive luxury resort collapses and is swept away in flash floods in the upper D region in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Pakistan's KPK is badly impacted by the flash floods and the torrential rains that have swept across the country. From Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to Balochistan through the southern Punjab province, more than 1/3 of Pakistan is now submerged in water. The torrential rain and flash floods have swept away homes and offices, roads and rail lines, and thousands of acres of crop now lie submerged in water. According to the Pakistan government, more than 1,100 people have lost their lives so far, and over 33 million people have been displaced internally.
सब कोई तबाही हो गया, गिर गए हैं सब सारे मालियात, सामान, मिसाल दे बक्से हैं, पेटी है, कपड़े हैं, कोई चीज़ भी नहीं बची। किसी को हमदर्दी भी नहीं आई, हमसे पूछेगा इधर से कोई गवर्नमेंट का बंदा भी नहीं आया, उसने ये भी नहीं पूछा आपके बच्चे बचे हैं या आपके गंदम बची है या आपका माल जानवर बचा है, हर चीज़ तबाह हो गया है।
So bad is the situation that Pakistan's all-powerful army chief with top military commanders appealed to overseas Pakistanis and to friendly countries to donate money, food and other relief material to help rehabilitate Pakistan.
Friendly countries will also come forward to help Pakistan in this hour of need. And I also appeal on behalf of Government of Pakistan, on behalf of people of Pakistan, to our expats and our friends abroad to please come forward and help these people who are in very, very difficult situations.
Pakistan's armed forces helicopters are working virtually from dawn to dusk to rescue people and provide relief to those impacted by the floods. Pakistan's Finance Minister Miftah Ismail has spoken of taking help from India given the acute shortage of food, vegetables and other edible items in Pakistan. He was quoted by Radio Pakistan saying Pakistan was considering importing vegetables and other edible items from India. Flash floods have washed away roads and bridges across the country, and several parts of Pakistan are now without both potable water and electricity. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media platform Twitter to say, "Saddened to see the devastation caused by floods in Pakistan. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, the injured and all those affected by the natural calamity and hope for an early restoration of normalcy." Pakistan's political leadership, including Imran Khan, may be engaged in a bitter battle for political supremacy, but the forces in Pakistan are reaching out both domestically and internationally, seeking help as a third of the country is now underwater. Bureau Report, India Today.
Several commentators in Pakistan are saying that the current situation in 2022 is much worse than the situation both in 2005 and in 2010. Pakistan desperately needs help. And given the trickle that's coming in from China, the writing clearly is on the wall. What should India do? Joining me on India First is Sudhindra Kulkarni, an author, a writer, a commentator and a voice for improving India-Pakistan relations. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni is former Director General of Infantry, and Kamar Cheema is an analyst who joins us from Pakistan. And Kamar Cheema, my first question is to you, sir. How bad is the current situation in Pakistan from Gilgit-Baltistan to Balochistan across Sindh, KPK and Pakistan's Punjab province?
Well, I think this is a very unfortunate situation where Pakistan was combating with the traditional security challenges in the country in the last decade. And now we are facing these non-traditional security challenges in terms of floods and unexpected spells of the monsoon. So the situation in the northern areas and particularly the southern areas is bad, as the government doesn't have a proper infrastructure when it comes to the storage of the water. So normally the water goes into the towns, cities, and the people who get in front of the water, the cities and the crops and the major chunk of the grains, which is for the society, that all gets washed away. So as the government says that more than 33 million people are affected, but that is not a sufficient data, because the data comes from the National Disaster Management Authority. There is a probability that the number is much bigger than that, and the government and the political parties, since the House is divided, Imran Khan, who runs Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, where there are floods, he doesn't have the government in the center, and those who have the government in the center, they don't have the government in the provinces. So the government is not in sync as far as the rehabilitation work is concerned.
Okay.
But the rescue work was done by the police, by the army, and by other institutions. Unfortunately, the political rallies were started in Pakistan. Because of that, the political parties and the politicians didn't pay much attention to the floods earlier. And when they saw massive floods came in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, they paid attention to that. So we could have avoided much of the situation had the bureaucracy and the politicians have paid attention. But
Stay
this
with
is
me
a
for
very
moment.
serious situation.
Sudhindra Kulkarni, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his condolences. He wished Pakistan returns to normalcy as quickly as possible. In your view, is that sufficient response, at least as of now?
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done what is really required of India by sending a very heartfelt message of condolences and also solidarity to the people of Pakistan in this hour of crisis. If you see the Pakistani social media, Modi ji's message has been very warmly received. There is a term in Hindi, Padosi ka dharm, the dharm or the duty of neighbor. It is the duty of India to come to the aid of Pakistan when the worst floods have been witnessed in Pakistan in known history. We have seen that many countries have rushed to help Pakistan. India and Pakistan are closest neighbors that one can think of. So Prime Minister Modi should follow up after the message that he has sent by rushing aid in terms of food, medicines, and all other relief rehabilitation material to Pakistan. Not just the government of India, even the people should rush. You know, just this morning, I got a call from a doctor in Pune. He said that we have a 10-member team of doctors that want to go to Pakistan. Can we get visa? There are so many such people in civil society in India that want to help Pakistan.
That is the goodness of our heart.
Similarly, a nation in need.
I so completely agree with you. But General Kulkarni, if Pakistan wants India's help, should Pakistan not directly ask for it? Should it also not dismantle the India-centric mil-jihad complex first?
Absolutely, Gaurav. I couldn't be agreeing more with you right now. First and foremost, I think heartfelt condolences. It's a really sad thing to what is happening to Pakistan. There is no denying the fact. And of course, they are our neighbors. But who stopped the trade? Pakistan stopped the trade. We were the ones who gave them the most favored nation status in '96. What they did in Pulwama, it is only after that. So trade and terror can't go together. But notwithstanding what we are talking about right now, Pakistan needs help. And Pakistan must themselves come forward and seek help. You saw the Chief of the Army Staff of Pakistan asking for help, but he should have come up and said, well, can India help us, please? You are our neighbor. Let's open up. If they are in need of vegetable, if they are in need of edible oil, if they are in need of pharmaceuticals, they need help, by all means, yes. Why not? You see the Prime Minister for India going all out to say, yes, definitely we would. But no, not wanting to come forward. And let's take as a worst case scenario, we do send an aircraft with trade and they don't receive it and they send it back, or the trade that is delivered and all the help that is delivered, they don't use it. What are they trying to convey? It has happened in the past. Pakistan is capable of doing that. And therefore, right now, let's not play politics at all. Let Pakistan come forward and say, yes, if the ministers are saying we want help, they should say so.
Unwarranted help breeds contempt. But Kamar Chima, whether help was sought or not, as Sudhindra Kulkarni was so rightly pointing out of the goodness of our heart, we've helped Pakistan in the past. You remember 2005 earthquake, sir. You remember 2010. In fact, if you recall 2010, Kamar Chima, that was 2 years, just 2 years after Pakistan Army and ISI sponsored 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. India gave Pakistan $25 million worth of assistance after floods. Kamar Chima, you realize, you killed 166 of our people. We still gave help, $25 million in 2010. And yet no action against India-centric terror, sir. Am I right to raise that point, please?
Well, sir, the first thing you need to understand is that in the recent floods in the south of India, the Pakistan offered assistance to India, but India refused. One thing. The second thing, which is important, listen me, sir. The second thing is that I think at the moment, as General Saab was mentioning, that the 10-member doctors team wanted to come, that is very nice gesture coming from India. But do not mix politics with the humanitarian assistance. Well, what Army Chief General Bajwa said, that the friendly countries, I would say the aid from Australia, from Sri Lanka, from America and other countries will come later. The aid from the support from the humanitarian assistance from India will come faster and on an urgent basis. And I think if it comes, Pakistan must welcome that, because we should keep humanitarian assistance separate from politics and security. And I think that will help open many more avenues. So when India...
Sir, what avenue was opened? Sir, I take your point entirely. I'm just taking you back to, 2010, Sudhindra Kulkarni, 2 years after 26/11 Mumbai terror attack sponsored by Pakistan Army that killed 166 people from a dozen countries in India, India gave Pakistan $25 million US. So help and friendship clearly cannot be a one-way street. अगर हम पड़ोसी का धर्म निभाते हैं, पड़ोसी का धर्म निभाना तो पाकिस्तान का भी कर्तव्य है. वो फिर भी आतंक भेजते हैं, वो आतंक का धर्म निभाते हैं.
आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा. Both countries should discharge their duty as neighbors, and it was very rightly pointed out that aid from India can reach Pakistan the fastest. They simply have to open the land border for our trucks to move in. And if you see how climate crisis has affected our neighbors, right now Pakistan is under severe floods, and another neighbor, China, large parts of China are suffering from extreme heat.
And drought.
This can happen to India also. So therefore, the time has come when all countries of the world should unite to take action against climate crisis, fight the effects of climate change. But right now, when the crisis is right in front of us, we must help the poor and the needy the first. There should be no politics. All other things can wait.
Fair enough. But how is seeking action against Hafiz Saeed politics? How is seeking that Indians are kept safe from Pakistan state-sponsored terror politics? Why should General Kulkarni, Pakistani lives matter more than the poor Indians who were killed at CST? And 69 of them were killed at Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, massacred by General Qamar Javed Bajwa's army-trained terrorists, armed by Pakistan Army. No, sir, that is not politics. General Kulkarni is keeping Indian lives safe, not the first responsibility of Indian Prime Ministers, whether Dr. Manmohan Singh or Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
See, first and foremost, Gaurav, it's very essential. I think it's an opportunity given to Pakistan. Pakistan must ensure that terrorism is not used by them as an instrument of state policy. There can be nothing better rather than guarding Hafiz Saeed and guarding Masood Azhar and again trying to convey that, well, Pakistan is not involved in doing what it is doing in Kashmir and all over. I think it's an opportunity given to Pakistan. Pakistan must step forward and open up the Wagah border and tell India, please help us. We are neighbors. We are willing to do. We'll ensure that no terror will emanate from our soil of Pakistan. I think this is what Pakistan should do right now, rather than not asking for help but wanting help. I think this kind of a thing, they will say, is not acceptable, because it is Pakistan that stopped the trade. Nobody else stopped trade. We have $500 million of trade that goes on with Pakistan in terms of pharmaceuticals are concerned. No problems at all. Pakistan must step forward, because with Pakistan all said and done, it is very essential for that country to first and foremost say, well, trade, yes, terror, no. And that will be a big no.
Kamar Chima, India had made one thing very clear: terror and trade cannot go on simultaneously. But Kamar Chima, is it fair to expect India that terror and aid should happen simultaneously? Pakistani terrorists were killed at the line of control just 2 days ago, sir, on the Pakistani side of, of the LOC, the POK side, sir. So I know you want to help, and I know we should help you, and I know, the Prime Minister, ultimately, Government of India may just help out of the goodness of our heart. But sir, should that, the milk of human kindness that flows from the Indian side cannot be responded to by blood from the Pakistani side, sir?
Well, it seems from the conversation in this panel that India really doesn't want to help, but you want to take the advantage of a situation where Pakistan shall request. In the time of need, always people come forward and they help their brothers and sisters.
Sir,
but what comes from
2005 में भी मदद कर दी, 2010 में तो $25 million दे दिए.
Listen me, what the general was talking as if he wanted to give something in free. This is a humanitarian assistance. If you don't want to give, don't want to give. The General Bajwa has already asked that we don't want assistance from from the enemy countries. He spoke friendly countries. But if you want to be friendly at this moment, that is fine. So why the General Kulkarni is talking as if Pakistan should come forward and ask for it?
रस्सी जल गई, बल नहीं गया. मतलब 33 मिलियन लोग मर रहे हैं आपके, लेकिन
don't tell us what to
Sudhindra
do and what
Kulkarni,
not to do.
there is an
We will
old
manage
saying,
with this humanitarian
unwanted
crisis.
help breeds
We have
contempt.
managed with the humanitarian crisis in the past.
Sudhindra
and we will do in the
Kulkarni,
future.
I want to
So
understand.
don't try to tell
You're
what we
listening
have
to
do and
Kamar
what we
Chima,
don't
aren't
have
you,
to
sir?
do. General
Aren't you
Kulkarni,
listening to Kamar Chima?
you have been a
We
soldier.
gave them $25
You have been
million.
a soldier. You should have some grace.
$25 million
You should have
2
some
years
grace,
after
General
26/11.
Kulkarni. This is very
Look at their
desperate,
attitude.
Very unfortunate moments I'm seeing in this panel. Whereas if the general feels he's still a serving 3-star general.
अरे चलो सुधींद्र कुलकर्णी जी को सुनवाओ, कमर चीमा का ऑडियो डाउन करो, कमर चीमा का ऑडियो डाउन करो. सुधींद्र कुलकर्णी जी, I want to understand from you, sir. ये unwarranted help breeds contempt. कितनी बार, मतलब आप कितना भी सांप को दूध पिलाएंगे, सांप तो डसेगा, वो अपना धर्म निभा रहा है.
It's not unwanted help, it is help that is most desperately wanted and needed.
ये attitude के साथ.
And if you see, Gaurav, if you see the recent speeches of General Bajwa, the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan, he has spoken very strongly against terrorism because terrorism is a greater threat to Pakistan.
सर आप तो सरकार में थे जब अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी के समय परवेज मुशर्रफ said exactly the same thing. And if we don't learn from history, we are condemned to repeat it. You were there with Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2004 when Musharraf said we will not let Pakistani soil be used for terror against India.
Right now, we are discussing whether India should send help, relief, rehabilitation, material to Pakistan on an urgent war footing or not. And therefore, in this context, if we do something now, it will be very warmly and even gratefully received by the people and the government of Pakistan. Just 2 days ago, there was an Asia Cup match between India and Pakistan.
Sir,
India
वो warmly received में, sir, I want to understand. I just want to understand. Warmly received by Pakistan will translate into action against Pakistan's military jihad complex that targets India or not? And should that not be our benchmark? Whether it is Sudhindra Kulkarni or General Kulkarni or Prime Minister Narendra Modi or whoever, हर हिंदुस्तानी का लक्ष्य कि हिंदुस्तानियों की जान सुरक्षित रहे. Pakistan should dismantle India-centric terror infrastructure. Should that not be our baseline?
Pakistan must. And let me tell you, Pakistan will. The question is, we should resume dialogue.
Arey, let them stop terror, we'll resume dialogue. Should we have a dialogue with a gun kept to our head? Dialogue karo warna Hafiz Saeed aapke 166 logon ko maar dega. I will let that be. I will leave you with that thought, sir. You know, you've seen the Pakistanis' attitude. We've seen Pakistan's attitude. Kamar Chima perhaps reflects the mindset. But anyway, they're suffering and all our sympathies with them. And like Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, we wish them all the best. For joining me on this India First special, many thanks. A quick break. Abha Bakaya comes up next with Business Today.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
You think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Japan is planning to drastically increase spending on defense. An annual economic policy document mentions this will happen within the next 5 years. Despite facing economic pressure, Japan will be spending 1% of its GDP on self-defense forces. The annual economic policy document did not mention the exact defense spending. It spends 2% of GDP on NATO. The changes will reflect in the next fiscal year's budget. This is coming as a response to the ongoing situation in Taiwan. Taiwan has rejected China's sovereignty claims and says only the island's people can decide their future. However, it has been facing threats from China. Japan and the United States emphasized the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and a peaceful resolution of any problem on both sides, the document said. The increase in military outlays would further strain its condition. Last year, Japan did not mention Taiwan as part of its defense spending. However, the document released this year just after Biden's statement about Taiwan. The US has been saying that it is willing to defend the island nation against attack by China using its military strength. China sent its 9 ballistic missiles in Japan's exclusive economic zone for the first time on 4th August. Japan's defense minister called it a serious problem that affects our national security and the safety of our citizens. The exclusive economic zone extends up to 200 nautical miles from Japan's coastline beyond the limits of its territorial waters. Indeed, Japan is getting affected by China-Taiwan friction. Japan's neighboring island of Okinawa and Taiwan hems in Beijing force. This would impact the sea lanes that supply Japan's economy.
Presented by eBix Cash. हर खुशी के लिए काफी है. Co-presented by CoinDCX, your gateway to crypto.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Bulls bounce back on Dalal Street. Sensex surges over 1,500 points. Nifty jumps 400 points. All sectors end in the green. A day after it hit an all-time low, the rupee rallies 47 paise against the dollar to close at 79.44, marks its largest single-day gain in a year, propped up by FPI flows into the Dalal Street. Gautam Adani is now the third richest person in the world. Total net worth reaches $137 billion. First Indian and Asian to achieve the feat. Adani Group shares zoom up to 4,000% since FY21, adding 17.45 lakh crore rupees to investor wealth. Good Glamm Group eyes public issue by the end of 24, tells Business Today TV that it expects an operating profit this fiscal. China shuts down its electronics hub Shenzhen for the second time this year, spooked by just 35 COVID cases. Draconian 4-day lockdown justifies decisions by manufacturers to look elsewhere. For the first time ever, there's an Asian among the 3 richest people in the whole wide world, and that Asian is none other than 60-year-old Gautam Adani. Riding high on the ballooning market cap of his 7 listed companies, the Adani Group chairman's net worth hit $137 billion or 1.1 lakh crore rupees as of today.
We will launch Jio 5G across multiple key cities.
A day after Mukesh Ambani made headlines with his plans for succession and 5G rollout among other business plans, his fellow Gujarati Gautam Adani is in the limelight again for ascending to the 3rd highest perch in the Richie Rich listing. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, Elon Musk is still the richest man in the world with the wealth of $251 billion. The runner-up is Amazon founder and chairman Jeff Bezos, trailing at a distant $153 billion. Gautam Adani is now at number 3 with a personal net worth of $137 billion. Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani, in comparison, is at the 11th position with a net worth of $92 billion. While Adani added nearly $61 billion to his wealth this year, the Ambani fortune has grown by around $2 billion. Powering the spectacular rise in Gautam Adani's personal fortune is the performance of his listed companies in the stock market. At least 3 Adani-packed companies hit a new lifetime high today. The flagship Adani Enterprises shares closed up at 3,193 rupees with a market cap of 3.6 trillion rupees. Adani Transmission shares also hit a lifetime high, as did Adani Total Gas. The other Adani companies, though not at their lifetime highs today, have also seen their shares rise steadily. The total market cap of the Adani Group climbing to a record high of more than 20 lakh crore rupees. Gautam Adani has also emerged as one of the biggest deal makers in recent times. He bought a controlling stake in Holcim's India cement business, purchased thermal power operator DB Power for 70 billion rupees, bought Macquarie Asia Infra's toll road assets in Andhra and Gujarat for 31 billion rupees, took over the Haifa port in Israel and is also attempting a takeover of NDTV, all in the span of 2 months. The big question mark against all this is the group's total debt, which stood at 2.2 lakh crore rupees on March 31st this year. A recent credit sites report has stated that Adani Group was deeply over-leveraged and that competition with Reliance could lead to Adani Group to make imprudent financial decisions. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
After a manic selling on Monday, bulls made a strong comeback on Dalal Street today. Benchmark indices clocked their biggest intraday gains in 3 months as broad-based buying emerged across sectors. Sensex and Nifty surged up to 3%. Sensex zoomed over 1,500 points to reclaim 59,000. Nifty too jumped over 400 points to end above 17,700. All Nifty stocks ended in the green. Auto and realty stocks saw a stellar rally. Bajaj Twins topped the charts. Bajaj Finserv soared over 5%. Other top blue chip gainers included IndusInd Bank, Tech Mahindra, ICICI Bank. Moreover, the rupee notched its biggest one-day gain in a year against a wobbly dollar. This comes on the back of a rush of foreign investor inflows. The rupee surged 47 paise to close at 79.44 against the US dollar today. With volatility refusing to budge, equity investors are wading through choppy waters to find value in this market. The current macro environment has led to a tussle between the bulls and bears on Dalal Street. So where should you park your money to hedge over volatile market conditions? Udayan Mukherjee, our global business editor, and I spoke with Anil Serene from Centrum Wealth on his view. Listen into an excerpt.
Given your outlook on the economy and the markets, if you were to say, look at the top 10 holdings of your PMS schemes, what is the tilt towards? Is it towards quality? Is it towards value? Is it towards growth from the framework that you just outlined?
So it is, for sure, it is mostly towards growth. Then there is quality, and then there is value in decreasing kind of orders of percentage. So growth, basically, it is about bottom-up stock picking. But if you were to look at it thematically, if you were to look at it in terms of what is working, so yeah, one would say, you know, as a theme, lending is back. I mean, we have had a period of time when notably the PSU banks, but many private sector banks were also undergoing some asset quality issues. Then in the recent times, there was this COVID-induced, Supreme Court moratorium where you could not really go and recover your bad loans from people who aren't paying you back. So there were some headwinds, and then there was also this issue of foreigners continuing to sell for, I don't know, some 7-8 months at a time, and they were selling what they owned, which was banks and IT stocks. But now those areas, those kind of issues are behind us. So you see bank lending doing quite well. So within the BFSI space, we like lenders more than we like asset managers and more than we like insurance companies, etc. So lending is one theme. The other theme is the return of commercial vehicles. I mean, commercial vehicles typically they have a 4 to 5 year cycle. And we think that the next cycle, the up cycle, has just recently begun. So that could be another theme that we are trying to play through, indirectly or indirectly, through the stocks that benefit from commercial vehicles, namely trucks, starting to do well. Another theme that we are focusing upon now is logistics. So we have a bunch of companies that are very capable in terms of technology, in terms of on the ground, feet on the street, distribution reach. They have good clientele. and they have relationships, with different providers in terms of road transport, air transport, sea transport. So multi-transport operator kind of a framework, but they aren't fully utilized at this point in time. So, and they have a characteristic that, barring one, which is a recently listed logistics name, all of them are 7,000, 8,000 crores market cap and below. So ownership is very, very poor amongst the larger institutions. So, like I said, not fully utilized, but fully capable of meeting the needs of the corporate sector for reliable, transportation with full information flow and traceability and trackability, etc. Fully capable on the IT side, etc., but not yet utilized. So there is tremendous operating leverage in store as we go forward, as more and more corporates choose to go the organized sector with the organized sector players, as opposed to using discrete trucking, discrete shipping, discrete air logistics. So that's another area where we feel pretty confident and hopeful. Another theme, of course, is healthcare. Now you can play it through diagnostic companies, or you can play it through hospital companies. So a long way to go. It is, both these are benefiting from the growth of health insurance, which, as you know, is growing very, very fast. So it is an ancillary kind of a play on the growth of insurance, which is all these hospital companies. So these are some of the themes that we are going after. And then there are a lot of bottom-up bespoke names, right, where you really can't slot them into a theme, but they are also there.
No, this is interesting, Anil, because the sectors that you've just spoken about, whether it's on the lending front or commercial vehicles or healthcare, they seem to be more or less plays on the domestic economy. Should I infer, therefore, that you are not as optimistic on the export plays, like maybe pharmaceuticals or information technology, or even chemicals, specialty chemicals? You don't find that much value in those spaces or growth?
No, so we are there in the specialty chemicals space, but those would be, if I were to reflect upon it, those would be more domestically focused, with some export being there. Pharmaceuticals, no, we are not so constructive at this point in time. In information technology also, we like the product companies in preference over the services companies, mainly because once you have built up your distribution and brand, then the incremental benefit from owning IP is more than what you would get from being a well distributed, well accepted services company. Obviously, the main reason behind that is that there is much lesser operating leverage, and these days transport costs have gone up, and also the labor costs have sort of gone up. Attrition is very high. So we like IT, but we are playing it through product companies for the reasons I outlined. But yeah, by and large, what you said is right. If you were to sort of split it up, it would be 3/4 of our portfolio, or more than 3/4 of our portfolio, would be domestically focused.
I want to understand, Anil, where the confidence is coming from in the retail story. I mean, we know, of course, that the retail participation has been immense and that some of these sectors are expected to benefit from that. But given the overarching theme of everything getting costlier, and that perhaps putting a squeeze on spending, for example, is there any risk to this theory, or is the domestic story so robust?
So, yes and no. I mean, as you know, there are many Indias. So there are people who are less affected by inflation or by these tighter economic conditions. Or there are youngsters who are fairly amenable to advertising, and they are in sync with latest trends. So let's say if you go with QSR companies, they, in the most recent quarter also, they have shown, QSR, I'm talking about the McDonald's and the Burger Kings of the world, or the Jubilants of the world, they are showing rising profitability at the gross margin level. So yeah, that is, so selectively you can find pockets of affluence, of rising profitability and a long runway of growth, and where the valuations are not yet at extreme levels.
And you can catch the full interview on businesstoday.in as well as our YouTube channel. Let's take a very quick break. Back with more on the other side. Welcome back. While many have shelved their IPO plans, the Good Glamm Group hopes to add glitter to the stock market. The group is eyeing an IPO in 2024. My colleague Sakshi Batra spoke to Good Glamm's Naya Sagi about getting ready to hit the bourses as well, and also how the group is looking to foray into international markets.
Is the Good Glamm Group looking to launch an IPO, and by when can we really expect that to happen, if that is on the cards right here? Because we've already seen how Nykaa has been one of the biggest grabs for investors, how they really grabbed up onto that, and we've seen this potential that the company has displayed after its listing as well. So help us understand, what's your view on that?
Yeah, no, so we're very excited. I mean, obviously about that. That for us is a natural trajectory we want to take. And I think we're looking at potentially listing in 24.
Okay.
I think till then, the efforts are going to be that we want to be a very cash-rich company, right? And I think that's sort of, we've been focusing on growth, and I think the journey, because, we have the lowest CAC in the industry, the journey to becoming really cash-rich and really focusing on very strong EBITDA multiples, right, is going to be, is the journey that we're on right now. Right. So I think that's really the focus for us over the next year and a half. And I think, we want to list in India. Right? India has some of the richest consumer multiples, right? It is a place where we've built out our brands, where people know us and they, familiar with our brands, right? So the retail market is very, they know us, they're comfortable with us, right? This is a place where we want to list. And I think Nykaa, like you very correctly said, has shown that story of success and demonstrated strength, right? Post the IPO as well. So I think this is the plan so far, and, super excited to be on that journey, actually.
Do you see the international foray being the next, provider of a trigger or a growth driver going forward?
Absolutely. So we've already made the announcement, right? It's out in the press. So we're, we've actually gotten someone amazing, Asad, who's been a seasoned leader in actually internationally expanding a bunch of amazing brands. And he's joined our group to basically lead international expansion for us. So the Middle East is actually our first foray. We're interestingly starting offline first and then going digitally.
You have a office in Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken.
We have an office in Dubai. I mean, it's mainly Asad and his team currently. But yeah, so I think the whole sort of foray of international has already started. It's something we're very, very big believers in. We're also looking at other geographies as well to see where the next play can be.
So would it be developed countries? Would it be some of the emerging countries?
We'll be making another announcement very soon. So if I look at it, right, last year was the year of acquisitions, right? And that really propelled us ahead of every other player in the market because this kind of scale and this kind of just amazing brands and content creator assets coming together was unprecedented.
Yeah.
This year is the year of consolidation, of integration, maybe 2 or 3 other very strategic acquisitions. Next year is the year of international. So I think you'll sort of see this strategy play out. There'll be a few more announcements very soon.
So the acquisitions you're pointing out would be in all of these 3 segments that you have, the sectors that have consolidated together. Would it be 1 or 2 of them? And where do you see, which segment do you really see being the growth driver going forward for you?
You know, it's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, we are open to considering interesting assets and interesting partners for acquisition in case they really help bolster what we're already doing across these 3 verticals. But like I said, I think the main focus for us is still to look for the right partner and the right acquisitive target in the male grooming space and on the offline sort of, touch points for us. In terms of how we look at these 3 sort of pillars, right? They actually kind of feed into each other. So the brands, the good brands is really the starting point, right? But even the good media co, the good creator co actually have their own independent P&Ls. Sure. Right. So and we've appointed CEOs to each of these, right? So the CEOs basically are the ones who are making the final calls on whether they want to bolster what they already have to offer, not just for the other brands or for the other sort of pillars in the group, but for themselves as well, their solutions. And, they take a call on whether they want to acquire more assets. But broadly, I would say that, we're not really actively scouting acquisitions. We get some amazing inbounds and then, we'll consider them if it feels right.
And as India celebrates 75 years of independence, it's time to take forward the trajectory of the economy's phenomenal growth. How will the next 25 years look as India charts the growth path to achieve global leadership? Karishma Asudani spoke to India's Sherpa to G20 and former CEO Niti Aayog Amitabh Kant with an eye on India at 100. Kant also talked about the key themes that India is focusing on for the upcoming meet. Listen in.
So we're talking about India in 2047. How is it going to be different from India in 2022?
So one of the key aspects of this particular report brought out by the Institute of Competitiveness is that India needs to rapidly grow. India has done enormous lot in terms of digitization, in terms of ensuring that there is the Swachhata movement, that we've been able to provide electricity, we've been able to build roads, we've been able to provide houses, cooking gas connections. And what this report says is that India needs to grow at rapid rates for the next 25 years and what it will entail in terms of bringing in huge amount of infrastructure, in terms of urbanizing, in terms of ensuring competitive efficiency of the private sector to be able to grow rapidly. And there's a huge amount on social progress, which means that India will have to improve its learning outcomes, its health outcomes, nutrition. But most critically, what the report says is that if India is to grow rapidly, the real action is in the states of India. And several states of India, many states of India will have to bring growth, progress and improving learning and health outcomes as the centerpiece of their growth strategy for the next several years.
Right. One question. You're talking about states, but I wouldn't miss an opportunity to ask you because the G20 presidency is going to come soon for India in November. Now, let's understand this factor that because of a lot of geopolitical aspects, Russia-Ukraine crisis, China-Taiwan, a lot of supply issues, what is India expecting this time at G20? What are going to be our core themes?
Well, several things. One is that Indonesia is right now the president. Our objective, by the time India becomes the president, I think globally there'll be several challenges. There'll be challenge of global growth. There'll be challenges of global sustainability. There'll be challenge of accelerating the pace of sustainable development goals. And there'll be a huge challenge of inclusive growth. So all these issues will be critical and in the forefront.
Thank you, sir.
In a clear overkill, China has shut down the world's largest electronic market, imposing an all-out lockdown in the southern city of Shenzhen. The international tech hub of 18 million people, which neighbors Hong Kong, had reported 35 COVID cases this morning.
The army of workers in orange, the barricades and the draconian restrictions are all back in the electronics epicenter of the world, Shenzhen. With 35 new COVID cases declared on Tuesday morning, Chinese authorities are cracking down hard, shutting down the world's largest electronics market, Huaqianbei, a busy area home to thousands of shops selling computer components, mobile phone parts and microchips. Under the mandatory 4-day lockdown, residents have been forbidden to leave their homes and have to undergo COVID testing every day. All businesses have been ordered to be shut except supermarkets, pharmacies and hospitals. Even restaurants are shut with only takeaways allowed. The Chinese Communist Party's heavy-handed approach is expected to further hit the slowing local economy. In July, youth unemployment in China hit a record high with 1 in 5 out of work. Shenzhen had last been shut in March, impacting operations of global biggies like Tencent Holdings and Huawei Technologies, which have their head offices here, even Foxconn manufacturers and the Apple iPhone in the area. It is partly in response to these arbitrary Chinese measures that manufacturers have been setting up base outside China. In countries like India, Vietnam and Indonesia, hoping to soften the impact of the dragon's blazing fire. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
That's where we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
So sorry.
काम किया है जी, काम करेंगे, लोग हमें यूं ही बदनाम करेंगे, हमारी वजह से दिल्ली वाले हंस रहे हैं जी, समझ नहीं आ रहा फिर हमारे लोग क्यों फंस रहे हैं जी।
क्या हुआ जी, आप इतने खास आदमी क्यों हो रहे हैं?
बड़ी मुश्किल है जी, खोया मेरा दिल है जी, कोई मेरे दिल को समझाए ना। ईडी सीबीआई से बचूं और बचाऊं कैसे, बिल्कुल समझ आए ना। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी, बताओ ना कोई। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी।
झाड़ू लेकर आया था तो झाड़ू लेकर जाएगा, सबका नंबर आएगा भाई, सबका नंबर आएगा।
जो होगा वो देख लेंगे, हम तो तैयार हैं जी, आरोप कोई लगा ले, हम तो कट्टर ईमानदार हैं जी। नमस्कार जी।
You're with 11 Live and these are the headlines. No Ganesh Puja at Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru tomorrow. Supreme Court orders status quo, plea on ownership of the ground to be reheard in Karnataka High Court. No detention, no arrest for rape accused Murugu Matsya. Locals protest against police inaction. Math throws its weight behind the pontiff, calls rape charges conspiracy. CBI checks bank lockers of Delhi Deputy Chief Minister in the liquor gate controversy. Anna Hazare slams his former protege, says Kejriwal drunk on power. Suspense over the next Congress chief. Is Shashi Tharoor set to throw in his hat as party president?
Because in politics has been national and international so far. If one day other vistas open up, one doesn't want to say no. So that's all.
Another twist in the Sonali Phogat murder case. Family claims Neta's PA poisoned her to take away her property. Says main accused Sangwan spiked her food 2 months ago too. Top story. The Supreme Court has ordered status quo be maintained at the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru's Champrajpet. Putting aside the Karnataka High Court's verdict, the Supreme Court did not allow Ganesh Chaturthi festival to take place at the Maidan. The Supreme Court pointed out that for 200 years the puja wasn't held there. The court further ordered the ownership of the land be decided by the Karnataka High Court. It was a day of high drama in the court. First, a 2-judge bench failed to arrive at a ruling as they were split. The Chief Justice then set up a 3-judge bench that met and settled the matter this evening. The Karnataka Revenue Department and the State Waqf Board are both claiming ownership of the Idgah Maidan land.
Well, yes, a status quo has been ordered by the Supreme Court of India on this issue, which means that there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. But a larger issue of legal, political and religious question has been raised in this case, which will now be considered by the Karnataka High Court. What is the power of the state to allow the religious functions of another religion in a place that has been claimed by a particular religion? Who exactly owns that Idgah property which the state is now laying claim to? Is the is it Waqf property? Does it belong to the state? And more importantly, as the Karnataka Waqf Board and the Idgah management has raised, why has the Karnataka government suddenly woken up and changed its stance when there was no claim to this land for hundreds of years? Why is it that just when elections are coming up, this kind of a religious issue is being raised? The Supreme Court, of course, has said that when you did not have any function there for 200 years, why can't you wait for just a few more days? That was the observation from the bench headed by Justice Indira Banerjee, which has now issued status quo order. Interestingly, the Karnataka government trying its best to get permission to hold Ganesh Chaturthi at that particular Idgah ground itself, with even the Solicitor General arguing that the court should allow the government to hold Ganesh Chaturthi puja. The court, however, was not impressed by these arguments, and there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. However, the larger question still remains, and a lot of political and religious war of words has happened in the state.
All right, here's the latest news break coming in. Massive showdown over the Ganesh Utsav simmering in Karnataka. Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court hears a plea challenging its earlier order that allowed Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations at the Idgah Maidan, Hubli. Now, this comes after the Supreme Court order said that there will be no Ganesh festivities at the Idgah grounds in Bengaluru tomorrow. Muslim parties are claiming that the Karnataka High Court order that allowed celebrations in Hubli will be modified after the Supreme Court verdict on Bengaluru Idgah Maidan ground. Petitioners placed the Supreme Court order before the single-judge bench of Karnataka High Court. The Government Council permission was granted for 2 nights or 3 days. We have set conditions on how the function is to be performed. The High Court must appreciate the celebrations of Ganesha is a community function. Everyone is welcome. Everyone should be part of it. Members of other communities should ensure no one is prevented from performing a function on land owned by the Commission. Over 3 days after he was booked for allegedly raping minors, the Murugu Mutt Seer is still free. He's not been arrested, continues to be at his mutt in Chitradurga. This despite being charged under the POCSO Act. What is even more shocking is that political parties are silent on the issue.
Allegations of rape against prominent Lingayat Mutt Seer Shivamurthy Murugasharanaru have rocked Karnataka. The pontiff of Jagat Guru Murugarajendra Vidyapeeth Mutt is booked under Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act for the alleged rape of 2 minor girls staying at the school hostel attached to the mutt. It's been over 3 days since the case was filed, but the suspect roams free at his Chitradurga mutt despite charges under POCSO Act being a non-bailable offence. The seer has claimed the rape case is a conspiracy against him.
ಆ ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಹೆದರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಗೌರವಿಸೋಣ. ಆ ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಮಾನದ ಚಿಲುಮೆಯನ್ನು
Other Lingayat seers are putting up a united front in support of the Muruga pontiff.
ನಮ್ಮ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಈ ಆರೋಪ ಮುಕ್ತರಾಗಿ ಹೊರಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ನಾಡಿನ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರ ಆಶಯ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, ಸತ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯ ಹೊರಬರ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಬೆಂಬಲಕ್ಕೆ, ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಶಿವಮೂರ್ತಿ ಮುರುಘರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಾಖಾ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಮುದಾಯದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಅವರ ಜೊತೆಲಿದ್ದು.
Meanwhile, protests have erupted against Chitradurga police and district administration for not taking strict action against the seer accused of rape.
I have a simple question. What is the meaning of POCSO rules? Okay. If it is normal people, you should arrest him. What happened that VIP going on court?
With just months to go for the state elections, most leaders across political parties have backed the seer, overlooking the serious allegations leveled against him.
He is accused and whatever it's there, law will take its own course. But my duty is, since my childhood, I am coming to this mat. And I told you, I am prepared to meet the children also. But the Department of Police or whatever they are not allowing me to. I am ready to meet them also.
BJP MLC H. Vishwanath, one of the rare voices to call out the police, has demanded the arrest of the seer.
When a person booked under POSCO, he must immediately arrested within 24 hours. But in this case, that has not been happened. People are asking, why? Is there any law for the shrine and the common man?
The District Sessions Court in Chitradurga will hear the seer's anticipatory bail petition on September 1st.
BJP MLC also demand the arrest of seers and hit out at the government, stating that ministers' statements are protecting the accused in the POCSO case. The question is, after the CRPC statement registered at the court, will the police act on the alleged accused in the POCSO case? With your original Shivamurthy Sagairaj reporting for India Today, Chitradurga.
The rage over the murder of Ankita in Jharkhand Dumka continues to grow. Meanwhile, Jharkhand High Court has sought a detailed report from the DGP of Jharkhand.
जैसे उसके लिए अभी हम मर रहे हैं, उसको वही सजा हो जाए.
आप ऐसा चाहती?
हाँ.
On August 23rd, a minor schoolgirl was burnt alive by a stalker in Jharkhand's Dumka. She succumbed to her injuries 5 days later. The suspect Shahrukh Hussain is in police custody. Outrage over this brazen crime has spread across the country. The Jharkhand High Court has taken cognizance of Ankita's murder and summoned the DGP.
फॉरेंसिक की भी टीम आई है, सीआईडी के प्रभारी भी आए हुए हैं और एडीजी हेडक्वार्टर भी आए हुए हैं. इन्हीं के परीक्षण निर्देशन में अनुसंधान हो रहा है.
The National Commission of Protection of Child Rights too has stepped in. It is sending a team to Dumka. The BJP has trained its guns on Jharkhand government, accusing Chief Minister Hemant Soren of appeasement politics.
शर्म आनी चाहिए ऐसे अपराध करने के बाद या अपराध करने का अवसर झारखंड की लापरवाह सरकार ने दिया। अगर वह सरकार ने समय से कार्रवाई की होती तो उस बेटी के साथ ऐसी घटना नहीं घट सकती थी। उसको समय से इलाज मिला होता तो शायद उसका जीवन नहीं समाप्त होता।
The demand for swift justice is getting bigger, with Ankita's family and citizens calling for the death penalty.
यही चाहते हैं मेरी बहन, मेरी छोटी बहन मेरे आपके सामने तरफ तरफ के मारी, उसको भी इससे भी बड़े सजा मिले, फांसी भी उसके लिए करूँ।
अंकिता का जो हत्यारा शाहरुख हुसैन है, उसको तो जल्द से जल्द फांसी की सजा हो। तो हम लोग का हवाले कीजिए, अगर उसको फांसी अगर कानून नहीं करेगा तो हम लोग उसको जलाएंगे।
The Supreme Court has laid down the criteria for awarding the death penalty in the 80s. Capital punishment is given in the rarest of the rare crimes. Many experts feel that Ankita's murder is a fit case for death penalty. Bureau Report, India Today.
As the mystery around TikTok star and BJP leader Sonali Phogat unfurls, the Goa cops are under fire after initially claiming Sonali died of a heart attack. Haryana's Home Minister Anil Vij has now called for a CBI probe.
A party gone wrong. Drug-fueled revelry. Murder on the beach. TikTok star and BJP leader Sonali Phogat's death continues to make headlines. The Goa police is under fire after they initially claimed Sonali died of a heart attack. In an exclusive interview to India Today, Haryana's Home Minister Anil Vij has called for a CBI probe into the case.
सोनाली फोगाट के परिवार मुख्यमंत्री जी से मिला था और उन्होंने एक पत्र दिया था जिसमें उन्होंने मांग की थी कि इस केस की इसमें हमको लगता है कि कुछ राजनेताओं का भी हाथ हो सकता है, इसलिए इस केस की सीबीआई से जांच करवाई जाए। तो हमने गोवा सरकार को लिख दिया है स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड करके कि इस केस की सीबीआई जांच कराने के लिए वो कार्रवाई करें।
Earlier, Sonali's family had met Haryana CM Manohar Lal Khattar and handed over a letter alleging big names could be involved in the suspected murder. The Goan police has submitted a detailed report on Sonali's death to the Haryana DGP. Goa CM Pramod Sawant has not ruled out the possibility of the CBI taking over the case.
उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट की थी कि सीबीआई के लिए देनी चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे तो लगता है कि बहुत अच्छी तरह से इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो रही है। फिर भी उनकी रिक्वेस्ट रही तो कि सीबीआई के लिए देना चाहिए, तो हम ज़रूर इसके ऊपर सोचेंगे, लेकिन उसका पूरा रिपोर्ट जो आज तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो गई है, उनका रिपोर्ट आज शाम तक हम डीजीपी हरियाणा और सीएम हरियाणा के लिए भी भेज देंगे।
Meanwhile, a team of Goa police is scheduled to visit Haryana to continue with their investigation. The family immersed the ashes of Sonali Phogat in Ghar Ganga on Monday. But only a fair and thorough investigation can bring the family at least some sense of closure. With Kamaljit Sandhu, Bureau Report, India Today.
A big child trafficking racket has been busted in Uttar Pradesh. This after a video of a man stealing an infant at a railway station went viral. What is in fact shocking is that the baby was later found at the house of a BJP corporator in Firozabad.
There's no way you would have missed this viral video that stunned, shocked and broke your heart. The stealth with which a man in the dead of night picks up an infant and walks away. These CCTV visuals from the night of August 23rd at the Mathura railway station are chilling. A man appearing to pass by the child who's sleeping with his mother. Moments later, he comes back and scoops the child up and makes a dash. The CCTV camera captured him running towards a train stationed on the platform. The 7-month-old baby has been found 100 kilometers away from where he was picked up.
वहाँ से जब बच्चा चुराने के बाद जो है, जो यहाँ पे दीपू नामक जो जिसने बच्चा को चुराया था, वो अपने यहाँ से पहले ऑटो से फिर बस से जो है वो पहले हाथरस जो है वो गया। हाथरस में जाकर के जो भी इसके टीम के जो भी इसके गिरोह के लोग थे उनके साथ इनकी मीटिंग हुई थी। जो इनको बेचना था जिससे उसके साथ ऑलरेडी इनकी पहली मीटिंग हो चुकी थी। फिर उनको बुलाया गया, बुला करके फिर बच्चे को उनको सपोर्ट जो है वो किया गया था। आपको मालूम नहीं पड़ा जब ले गए उठा के?
नहीं पड़ा था, फिर मैंने दिन में देखा नींद, फिर मेरी उठी जब मेरे को पता पड़ा।
सुबह मालूम पड़ा। उसके बाद फिर क्या किया आपने?
पुलिस वाले को बताई थी हमने आकर।
फिर
पुलिस वाले ने कैमरा चालू करके उसमें देखा, फिर सीधा पता लगा कि बच्चा कोई एक आदमी लेके जा रहा है। और यहाँ के पुलिस वाले बहुत अच्छे हैं, हमारी मदद कर दिया, हमारा बच्चा वापस ला दिया।
He was found from a BJP corporator's house in Firozabad. With this recovery, the Uttar Pradesh cops have cracked a well-oiled syndicate that steals and sells children. But the fact that a BJP corporator bought a child is not lost on anyone. BJP corporator Vinita Agarwal and her husband had allegedly bought the boy for 1.8 lakh rupees from two doctors who were part of a larger gang as they wanted a son. The couple already has a daughter. 8 people have been arrested, including the BJP corporator and the man Deep Kumar, who was caught on the security camera picking up the child from the platform.
8 लोग इसमें अरेस्ट हुए हैं और ये जानकारी हुई है कि कुछ और बच्चों को भी इन्होंने बेचा है। अब किसको बेचा है, कहां से वो बच्चे आए थे, इसका भी हम लोग इन्वेस्टिगेशन में उसको शामिल कर रहे हैं, इसीलिए इसमें धारा भी बढ़ाई गई है।
The 7-month-old boy has since been handed over to his parents, but the sheer brazenness of the crime and the involvement of a BJP corporator has left India stunned. Bureau Report, India Today.
Incessant rains continue to wreak havoc in Karnataka, with Bengaluru witnessing waterlogging in several areas. The heavy rains effectively shut down the national highway connecting Bengaluru and Mysuru, leading to a massive traffic jam.
Roads submerged in water. Traffic caught in massively waterlogged streets. Life coming to halt. Bengalurians left in knee-deep water. India's Silicon City getting drowned in rain woes after heavy showers lashed the city. IT hub of India, Bengaluru, which often sees pothole nightmare on roads, struggled after heavy downpour. Roads turned rivers, exposed the government claims of a world-class metropolis.
It is BTM layout and Madiwala area. This street is completely inundated after 48 hours of non-stop rain. You can see to what extent the water logging is. This gate to my right was completely submerged. Also, the water levels have come down. The BBMP and the fire department have constantly been working to remove the water and drain it back to the lake or the drain here. How bad has been the rain here, and how much did you see the water logging in your house?
So bad. The water came to our house only, and insects are coming inside, and the garbage is piling up. Everything is bad, so bad. We are not able to go to office.
Not just the super posh areas of Bengaluru, highways leading to the city were also submerged. The heavy rainfall effectively shut down the expansive national highway that links Bengaluru and Mysuru. Passengers were evacuated from buses and cars in rainwater. The Met Department forecasts cloudy skies and light to moderate rainfall in Bengaluru till Thursday. Similar scenes were seen in Ramanagara as well, where flash floods claimed lives of at least 2 while rendering thousands homeless. In Tumakuru, the roads and villages are inundated. Roads connecting Basavahalli village were washed away. Hubli too faced similar rain pain. With Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
The situation in Pakistan is desperate. 33 million people impacted by the floods in torrential rain. More than 1,100 people killed so far, and many sadly still unaccounted for.
A massive luxury resort collapses and is swept away in flash floods in the upper D region in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Pakistan's KPK is badly impacted by the flash floods and the torrential rains that have swept across the country. From Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to Balochistan through the southern Punjab province, more than 1/3 of Pakistan is now submerged in water. The torrential rain and flash floods have swept away homes and offices, roads and rail lines, and thousands of acres of crop now lie submerged in water. According to the Pakistan government, more than 1,100 people have lost their lives so far, and over 33 million people have been displaced internally.
सब कोई तबाही हो गया, गिर गए हैं सब सारे मालियात सामान, मिसाल दे बक्से हैं, पेटी है, कपड़े हैं, कोई चीज़ भी नहीं बची। किसी को हमदर्दी भी नहीं आई, हमसे पूछेगा इधर से कोई गवर्नमेंट का बंदा भी नहीं आया, उसने ये भी नहीं पूछा आपके बच्चे बचे हैं या आपके गंदम बची है या आपका माल जानवर बचा है, हर चीज़ तबाह हो गया है।
So bad is the situation that Pakistan's all-powerful army chief with top military commanders appealed to overseas Pakistanis and to friendly countries to donate money, food and other relief material to help rehabilitate Pakistan.
Friendly countries will also come forward to help Pakistan in this hour of need. And I also appeal on behalf of Government of Pakistan, on behalf of people of Pakistan, to our expats and our friends abroad to please come forward and help these people who are in very, very difficult situation.
Pakistan's armed forces helicopters are working virtually from dawn to dusk to rescue people and provide relief to those impacted by the floods. Pakistan's Finance Minister, Miftah Ismail, has spoken of taking help from India given the acute shortage of food, vegetables and other edible items in Pakistan. He was quoted by Radio Pakistan saying Pakistan was considering importing vegetables and other edible items from India. Flash floods have washed away roads and bridges across the country, and several parts of Pakistan are now without both potable water and electricity. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media platform Twitter to say, "Saddened to see the devastation caused by floods in Pakistan. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, the injured and all those affected by the natural calamity and hope for an early restoration of normalcy." Pakistan's political leadership, including Imran Khan, may be engaged in a bitter battle for political supremacy, but the forces in Pakistan are reaching out both domestically and internationally, seeking help as a third of the country is now underwater. Bureau Report, India Today.
Going into a quick break, stay with us. News and updates continue.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be.
From those who matter.
Women politicians going to stick up for each other.
Of those who should matter. I document the truth. I don't distort the truth. I don't glamorize the truth. I don't gloss over the truth.
The ghosts of India's contentious medieval history have come knocking again.
I hustle for the truth. On the ground, in the newsroom, in the studio. I don't try to grab eyeballs.
I inform you to make you see the point.
To the point with Preeti Chaudhary. At these times, only on India Today.
right, fashion designer Rimzim Dadu completes 15 years in the fashion industry. Her design innovation on display.
Art and fashion are often intertwined. For Rimzim Dadu, whose technique and craft stands out as her USP or unique selling proposition, the Karnataka Museum of Art seemed a fitting place to showcase a retrospective fashion showcase celebrating 15 years of her journey. The design, innovation and experimental surface texturing is her true blue signature. She discards convention, not just with an art and fashion confluence, but her design philosophy. A contemporary prism to traditional weaves with innovative materials, deconstruction and engineering. The showcase at the KNMA included contemporary and luxury ready-to-wear works with handcrafted clothing created with progressive surface texturing.
I thought like, okay, I'll do like one piece made out of steel wires, who will buy it? But like people are mad, they buy it and it's become my signature. So yeah, I mean, I think it speaks more about the audience that they're like willing to experiment and willing to try new things and like they want to create a statement. They don't want to wear just the usual.
As Dadu marks her 15 years in the fashion industry, her signature experiments were seen firsthand in their raw form. The artisans behind her creations sure were the real showstoppers, displaying their craft with a leather patola, weaving experiments with paper, silicone, steel, chiffon and zari. Artists Manish Gera, Vibha Malhotra and G.R. Irana modelling Dadu's designs against the backdrop of an art showcase Between Vows and Words by Anupam Sood was just the metaphorical due that Rimzim deserved for her artistically fashionable journey. Rimzim Dadu had her muses Tara Sataria and Vijay Verma dressed in black and white wearable luxury bread.
This show today represents who she is, thinking out of the box, doing something new, innovative. I love what I'm wearing. It's so comfortable. At the same time, I feel like a warrior.
I started my day coming here and trying on this amazing lehenga. It's this modern twist with colors that I really love, that are black and white, and I wear them pretty much every day. It's been wonderful to also see the marriage of art and fashion, which I think Rimzim has done so beautifully here at the KNMA, so I'm just very happy to be a part of it.
Interestingly, these clothes that sculpt different materials to create these forms, create a distinctive structure, are actually rather fluid, soft and malleable, and sure stand out as signature Rimzim Dadu. In New Delhi, with inputs from Riya Modi, Chaiti Narula for India Today.
With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this edition of News. Do stay with us. News and updates continue. All right, viewers, latest news break. Karnataka High Court's order on Hubli Idgah Ganesh Utsav celebrations. The High Court says it is not in dispute that the said property belongs to the government. It is the case of the petitioner that government has allotted the property on lease for 999 years. The High Court has said it's clear from the previous judgment that the property is owned by the government and the petitioner has taken the property on lease to be used only for 2 occasions. Government has got the right for the said property. right, Piyush, we're going to try and connect to a reporter who's going to break it down for us on what exactly the Karnataka High Court has said. But what we are getting to understand that the High Court has noted, it is clear from previous judgment that the ownership of the Maidan is not the main dispute. That the property is owned by the government and the petitioner has taken the property on lease to be used only for 2 occasions. The government has got the right for the said property. We're going to try and connect to our legal reporter who's going to break this ruling down for us. Will Ganesh Utsav celebrations take place or not? That's the big question. The High Court has moreover said that Hindu parties submitted an application for placing a Ganesh idol and holding cultural activities. A committee was constituted which, after examining the material on record, submitted a report to the government stating that the land can be handed over to a Hindu organization. The petitioner has not produced any records to show that the Maidan is declared as a place of worship. It does seem that the High Court has ruled in favor of Ganesh Utsav to take place at the venue. With that, a quick break to stay with us. News and updates continue on the other side.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Hello and welcome. You're watching In the Club. I'm Dipali Patel. This is where we get you the best from the world of entertainment. First up, Vijay Deverakonda's Liger was surely one of the most anticipated films of 2022, but it has failed to roar at the box office. The distributors are reportedly staring at huge losses, while the Telugu actor went to Mumbai from Hyderabad to make amends with an exhibitor who was upset with him with one of his recent comments on boycott trend. Here's the complete story. From Hyderabad to Pune, Ahmedabad to Delhi. Chandigarh, and even Patna. For almost 30 days, both Vijay Deverakonda and Ananya Pandey were seen hopping from one city to another, found in every corner of the country to meet and greet fans. And what was it all for, you ask? Well, to promote their film Liger, which ultimately turned out to be a complete washout in theatres, courtesy its disastrous first week at the ticket counters.
Crossbreed hai mera beta.
That's right. According to reports, the film, which was rolled out in cinemas on August 25th, amidst much fanfare, is on the verge of concluding its theatrical run merely 4 days after the release. Over 90% of shows in the states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka have been cancelled after a steep drop on August 29, with theatres in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana expected to follow suit. This Puri Jagannath directorial collected Rs 33.12 crore gross worldwide on day 1 and raked in around 27 crore rupees on day 2. The film reportedly grossed around Rs 7.5 crore on day 3rd of its release. Reports suggest that Liger, which was made on a budget of approximately 100 crore rupees, has headed towards one of the biggest disasters of Indian cinema. So much so that the distributors are staring at huge losses. Filmmaker who handled the theatrical deals, meanwhile, has made handsome profits before the release, and he reportedly has planned to compensate them. Now, Liger was special and most anticipated film of 2022 for many reasons, and Vijay Deverakonda's Bollywood debut with it was one of them.
I love you!
He was in fact quite confident about the box office numbers.
We'll do a very big number day 1.
You're confident enough?
Yeah, bookings have opened.
This sports drama, however, opened to negative reviews and was even rated as the worst Indian film on IMDb. There was quite a buzz when the film was announced. The makers also took on board legendary icon Mike Tyson.
If you're a fighter, what am I?
But nothing seemed to have worked in favor of the film. In fact, it all started to go downhill when production faced multiple delays due to the pandemic and took 3 years to make Liger.
They call me Liger.
What also went against the hype around the film was the boycott calls that were made on social media. And when Vijay Deverakonda was asked about it, he said that he had faced such obstacles during the release of his previous films and that he believed his hard work would pay off regardless of such trends.
फ्री में एक्टिंग किया, पिक्चर बनाने के लिए लोगों का प्यार मिला और वो पिक्चर बहुत बड़ा हिट बना. रिलीज़ करने के लिए कोई नहीं था. 8-9 months लगा कोई रिलीज़ करने के लिए, मिलने के लिए, क्योंकि हम लोग कुछ भी नहीं थे. I was absolutely nobody, so I don't even blame them for not backing me. जब मेरा तीसरा पिक्चर था जो अर्जुन रेड्डी था, पूरा स्ट्रीट्स में थोड़ा पार्टीज और यूनियंस उतरा कि पिक्चर को रोको, तब लड़ना पड़ा रिलीज़ के लिए. फिर लोगों का प्यार मिला और वो बहुत बड़ा हिट हुआ और आप सब मुझे उसके वजह से थोड़ा बहुत जानते हैं. फिर मेरा अगला 2 पिक्चर रिलीज़ के पहले, एक तो 10 दिन पहले, एक तो 3 महीने पहले पूरा लीक हो गया था ऑनलाइन, टेलीग्राम पे, गूगल ड्राइव पे. और जो लोग एक और आदमी को ग्रो करना नहीं देख सकते, वो लोग पूरा सोशल मीडिया में फैल रहा था.
So latest news break coming in. There has been no ban on the Ganesh Utsav at Hubli Idgah Maidan. The Karnataka High Court, listening to a petition, has allowed Ganesh Utsav at the Hubli Idgah. No interim relief to the Muslim parties. I want to connect right now immediately to Nalini. Nalini, citing the example of what went down in the Supreme Court this evening in question of Bengaluru, now it seems at least where the Hubli Idgah Maidan is, the Karnataka High Court has gone ahead and given the clearance for the festivities to take place tomorrow.
Absolutely, Preeti. It was a late-night hearing in the Karnataka High Court before a single-judge bench. And what he's noted in the order is that there is absolutely no dispute regarding the ownership or the title of the Idgah Maidan in Hubli, which is starkly different from the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru that we were earlier talking about, which the matter regarding which had reached the Supreme Court. So because there is absolutely no question over the title and the ownership of the Idgah land in Hubli, and it is owned by the government, so the government has the right to use it in any way it chooses. In addition to that, there was a commission that was set up by the government that has done its groundwork to see as to whether or not these celebrations can actually be allowed. And they've submitted a report to the government, and only after that, the permission has been granted. So keeping all of this in mind, the Karnataka High Court has given a go-ahead. There is no stay at all on the festivities in the Idgah ground in Hubli in Karnataka. But at the same time, the Supreme Court order that has specifically ordered for status quo to be maintained and no celebrations to happen in the Idgah ground in Bengaluru still holds in place. But that is not applicable to the Idgah ground in Hubli according to the Karnataka High Court order that has just come up.
Nalini, does this settle the case for Hubli, or is there the remotest chance of the petitioners now approaching the Supreme Court even though you're hours away from celebration?
Well, it seems unlikely at this point, Preeti, because remember the Supreme Court was already sitting in a late evening hearing while it was deciding as to whether or not the celebrations at the Idgah ground in Bengaluru should be allowed to go on or not. So keeping in mind the timing right now and also the fact that the ground has been granted to the Hindu private organization to conduct the celebrations only for 2 nights and 3 days. So keeping that in mind, it seems unlikely because the celebrations are set to kick off tomorrow. But at the same time, anything can happen. There is no speculating at this point because the Muslim petitioners have tried to make a strong case and pull every thread out of the book to try and ensure that they can get an interim stay. After the Supreme Court had passed the order in the evening, they had rushed to the Karnataka High Court with a fresh application saying that this order is coming from the Supreme Court and there should be a similar stay that should be granted even for the area of Hubli, the Idgah ground in Hubli. But of course that has not been granted right now. But it seems unlikely, as far as I can tell, that they will approach the Supreme Court now. So it seems like the order will be in place and the Ganesh festivities will be allowed to go on tomorrow.
The fact that, Nalini, that these are festivities which will go on for more than a day, is it possible that the petitioners could approach the higher court or the apex court tomorrow?
The case that the petitioners had made out before the Karnataka High Court today was very interesting because what they stated was that this Idgah Maidan is actually a place of worship because of its proximity to the mosque and because it's a place of worship which is now being granted to another party to perform their religious functions. So that is essentially changing the character of the place of worship itself, which cannot be allowed according to the Places of Worship Act. Now, if this is the question that they are raising before the court of law, this is a much larger question that needs to be determined as to whether or not that Idgah Maidan in the very first place can even be considered as a place of worship or not. Because the Karnataka High Court in its order has noted that there is nothing that's been put on record by the Muslim parties to prove that this Maidan has been declared a place of worship. So in the absence of the proof of the same, there is a larger surrounding question as to whether or not this argument that is being put by them can even be accepted by the court in the very first place. Also keeping in mind that this is not an order that is coming from the trial court, the Karnataka High Court not once but now twice has issued the same order again because they've issued the same order earlier in the day when they'd allowed the festivities to go on, and now in the late night hearing they've issued the order again. The chances for the Muslim parties to challenge this now remain slim because even in the Supreme Court, if they file an appeal, for them to get it listed on an urgent basis and to go through the entire process to make it happen is also going to be significantly long drawn. So they don't have that much time on their hands, and along with that, they're preparing the appeal and the documents supplementing it is also going to take some significant amount of time. So even if they try and rush it, their legal options seem limited at this point. So they will have to put up with the order of the Karnataka High Court and allow for the festivities to go on. But yes, in the larger scheme of things, they might go ahead and ask for this ground itself to be declared as an official place of worship so that this cannot be repeated in the future. Considering it's a short duration right now, it seems like they might not challenge it, but they might still be raising the larger question as to whether or not there should be a question regarding the ownership of this land.
Thank you, Narali, for joining us. Top story. The Supreme Court has ordered status quo be maintained at the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru's Chamrajpet. Putting aside the Karnataka High Court's verdict, the Supreme Court did not allow Ganesh Chaturthi festival to take place at the Maidan. The Supreme Court pointed out that for 200 years the puja wasn't held there. The court further ordered the ownership of the land be decided by the Karnataka High Court. It was a day of high drama in the court. First, a two-judge bench failed to arrive at a ruling as they were split. The Chief Justice then set up a three-judge bench that met and settled the matter this evening. The Karnataka Revenue Department and the State Waqf Board are both claiming ownership of the Idgah Maidan land.
Well, yes, a status quo has been ordered by the Supreme Court of India on this issue, which means that there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. But a larger issue of legal, political and religious question has been raised in this case, which will now be considered by the Karnataka High Court. What is the power of the state to allow the religious functions of another religion in a place that has been claimed by a particular religion? Who exactly owns that Idgah property which the state is now laying claim to? Is the is it Waqf property? Does it belong to the state? And more importantly, as the Karnataka Waqf Board and the Idgah management has raised, why has the Karnataka government suddenly woken up and changed its stance when there was no claim to this land for hundreds of years? Why is it that just when elections are coming up, this kind of a religious issue is being raised? The Supreme Court, of course, has said that when you did not have any function there for 200 years, why can't you wait for just a few more days? That was the observation from the bench headed by Justice Indira Banerjee, which has now issued status quo order. Interestingly, the Karnataka government trying its best to get permission to hold Ganesh Chaturthi at that particular Idgah ground itself, with even the Solicitor General arguing that the court should allow the government to hold Ganesh Chaturthi puja. The court, however, was not impressed by these arguments, and there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. However, the larger question still remains, and a lot of political and religious war of words has happened in the state.
Over 3 days after he was booked for allegedly raping minors, the Murugu Mutt Seer is still free. He's not been arrested, continues to be at his mutt in Chitradurga. This despite being charged under the POCSO Act. What is even more shocking is that political parties are silent on the issue.
Allegations of rape against prominent Lingayat Mutt Seer Shivamurthy Murugasharanaru have rocked Karnataka. The pontiff of Jagadguru Murugarajendra Vidyapeeth Mutt is booked under Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act for the alleged rape of 2 minor girls staying at the school hostel attached to the mutt. It's been over 3 days since the case was filed, but the suspect roams free at his Chitradurga mutt despite charges under POCSO Act being a non-bailable offence. The seer has claimed the rape case is a conspiracy against him.
ಆ ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಹೆದರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಗೌರವಿಸೋಣ. ಆ ದಿಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಮಾನದ ಚಿಲುಮೆಯನ್ನು
Other Lingayat seers are putting up a united front in support of the Muruga pontiff.
ನಮ್ಮ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಈ ಆರೋಪ ಮುಕ್ತರಾಗಿ ಹೊರಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ನಾಡಿನ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರ ಆಶಯ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ, ಸತ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯ ಹೊರಬರ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಬೆಂಬಲಕ್ಕೆ, ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಶಿವಮೂರ್ತಿ ಮುರುಘರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಾಖಾ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಮುದಾಯದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಅವರ ಜೊತೆಲಿದ್ದು.
Meanwhile, protests have erupted against Chitradurga police and district administration for not taking strict action against the seer accused of rape.
I am a simple question. What is the meaning of POCO's rules? Okay. If it is normal people, you should arrest him. What happened that VIP going on court?
With just months to go for the state elections, most leaders across political parties have backed the seer, overlooking the serious allegations leveled against him.
He is accused and whatever it's there, law will take its own course. But my duty is, since my childhood, I am coming to this mat. And I told you, I am prepared to meet the children also. But the Department of Police or whatever they are not allowing me to. I am ready to meet them also.
BJP MLC H. Vishwanath, one of the rare voices to call out the police, has demanded the arrest of the seer.
When a person booked under POSCO, he must immediately arrested within 24 hours. But in this case, that has not been happened. People are asking, why? Is there any law for the shrine and the common man?
The District Sessions Court in Chitradurga will hear the seer's anticipatory bail petition on September 1st.
BJP MLC also demand the arrest of seers and hit out at the government, stating that ministers' statements are protecting the accused in the POCSO case. The question is, after the CRPC statement registered at the court, will the police act on the alleged accused in the POCSO case? With the original Shivamurthy, Sagairaj reporting for India Today, Chitradurga.
The rage over the murder of Ankita in Jharkhand, Dumka, continues to grow. Meanwhile, Jharkhand High Court has sought a detailed report from the DGP of Jharkhand.
जैसे उसके लिए अभी हम मर रहे हैं, उसको भी वही सजा हो जाए।
आप ऐसा चाहती?
हाँ।
On August 23rd, a minor schoolgirl was burnt alive by a stalker in Jharkhand's Dumka. She succumbed to her injuries 5 days later. The suspect Shahrukh Hussain is in police custody. Outrage over this brazen crime has spread across the country. The Jharkhand High Court has taken cognizance of Ankita's murder and summoned the DGP.
फॉरेंसिक की भी टीम आई है, सीआईडी के प्रभारी भी आए हुए हैं और एडीजी हेडक्वार्टर भी आए हुए हैं. इन्हीं के परीक्षण निर्देशन में अनुसंधान हो रहा है.
The National Commission of Protection of Child Rights too has stepped in. It is sending a team to Dumka. The BJP has trained its guns on Jharkhand government, accusing Chief Minister Hemant Soren of appeasement politics.
शर्म आनी चाहिए. ऐसे अपराध करने के बाद या अपराध करने का अवसर झारखंड की लापरवाह सरकार ने दिया है. अगर वह सरकार ने समय से कार्रवाई की होती तो उस बेटी के साथ ऐसी घटना नहीं घट सकती थी. उसको समय से इलाज मिला होता तो शायद उसका जीवन नहीं समाप्त होता.
The demand for swift justice is getting bigger, with Ankita's family and citizens calling for the death penalty.
यही चाहते मेरी बहन, मेरी छोटी बहन मेरे आपके सामने तरफ की मारी, उसको भी इससे भी बड़ी सजा मिले, फांसी भी उसके लिए करूं.
अंकिता का जो हत्यारा शाहरुख हुसैन है, उसको तो जल्द से जल्द फांसी की सजा हो. तो हम लोग का हवाले कीजिए. अगर फांसी अगर कानून नहीं करेगा तो हम लोग उसको जलाएंगे.
The Supreme Court has laid down the criteria for awarding the death penalty in the 80s. Capital punishment is given in the rarest of the rare crimes. Many experts feel that Ankita's murder is a fit case for death penalty. Bureau Report, India Today.
As the mystery around TikTok star and BJP leader Sonali Phogat unfurls, the Goa cops are under fire after initially claiming Sonali died of a heart attack. Haryana's Home Minister Anil Vij has now called for a CBI probe.
A party gone wrong. Drug-fueled revelry. Murder on the beach. TikTok star and BJP leader Sonali Phogat's death continues to make headlines. The Goa police is under fire after they initially claimed Sonali died of a heart attack. In an exclusive interview to India Today, Haryana's Home Minister Anil Vij has called for a CBI probe into the case.
सोनाली फोगाट के परिवार मुख्यमंत्री जी से मिला था और उन्होंने एक पत्र दिया था जिसमें उन्होंने मांग की थी कि इस केस की इसमें हमको लगता है कि कुछ राजनेताओं का भी हाथ हो सकता है, इसलिए इस केस की सीबीआई से जांच करवाई जाए। तो हमने गोवा सरकार को लिख दिया है स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड करके कि इस केस की सीबीआई जांच कराने के लिए वो कार्रवाई करें।
Earlier, Sonali's family had met Haryana CM Manohar Lal Khattar and handed over a letter alleging big names could be involved in the suspected murder. The Goan police has submitted a detailed report on Sonali's death to the Haryana DGP. Goa CM Pramod Sawant has not ruled out the possibility of the CBI taking over the case.
उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट की थी कि सीबीआई के लिए देनी चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे तो लगता है कि बहुत अच्छी तरह से इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो रही है। फिर भी उनकी रिक्वेस्ट रही तो कि सीबीआई के लिए देना चाहिए, तो हम ज़रूर इसके ऊपर सोचेंगे, लेकिन उसका पूरा रिपोर्ट जो आज तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो गई है, उनका रिपोर्ट आज शाम तक हम डीजीपी हरियाणा और सीएम हरियाणा के लिए भी भेज देंगे।
Meanwhile, a team of Goa police is scheduled to visit Haryana to continue with their investigation. The family immersed the ashes of Sonali Phogat in Ghar Ganga on Monday. But only a fair and thorough investigation can bring the family at least some sense of closure. With Kamaljit Sandhu, Bureau Report, India Today.
With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this edition of News. Do stay with us. News and updates continue.
You are watching India Today.
Food wastage is not just a social problem, but an environmental one too. It is important to take concrete steps to ensure food wastage is avoided at all costs. Why we shouldn't waste food? When we waste food, we waste the labor, the effort, investment, and precious resources. It also increases greenhouse gas emissions and contributes to climate change. What you can do? Reduce. Be more mindful of food you buy what you use, and use it all. Improve food storage and reduce wastage at home. Reuse. If you don't eat everything you make, freeze it for later. Use the leftovers as an ingredient in another meal. Recycle. Recycle as much as possible. Try composting and put nutrients back into the soil. You can also start your own green patch of fruits, vegetables, or herbs. With these easy ways, you can reduce food wastage and become a food hero.
Can Taiwan defend itself against China? China did many military drills around Taiwan. If China decides to launch a full-blown military attack, its armed forces would dwarf Taiwan's. Here's China and Taiwan's military capabilities compared. Total active forces: China 20,35,000, Taiwan 1,69,000. Ground forces China 9,65,000, Taiwan 94,000. Navy, China 2,60,000, Taiwan 40,000. Air Force, China 3,95,000, Taiwan 35,000. Reserves, China 5,10,000, Taiwan 16,57,000. Tanks, China 5,400, Taiwan 650. Submarines, China 59, Taiwan 4. Naval ships, China 86, Taiwan 26. Artillery, China 9,834 plus, Taiwan 2,093. Aircraft, China 3,227 plus, Taiwan 504 plus.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. Tuesday night, is Karnataka caught in a religious tangle that threatens to get worse ahead of Ganesh Chaturthi? We'll tell you why it is possible that the government's priorities are misplaced. That's the question we're going to be raising. Also, we will decode the Supreme Court's rarest of rare dictum in the context of the horrific case of Ankita. Justice for Ankita. We'll tell you more on that too. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. No Ganesh Puja will be allowed at the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru tomorrow. The Supreme Court steps in and orders a status quo, a plea on the ownership of the ground to be reheard in the Karnataka High Court. No detention, no arrest for rape accused Muruga Mutt Seer in Karnataka. Locals protest against the police inaction. The Lingayat Mutt throws its weight behind the pontiff, calls the rape charges a conspiracy. CBI checks the bank locker of Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in the liquor gate controversy. Anna Hazare enters the phrase, slams his former protege Kejriwal, claims he's drunk on power and arrogance. Suspense continues over who will be the next Congress chief. Is Shashi Tharoor set to throw in his hat? Stresses the need for big organizational overhaul in the party to stay relevant.
The focus in politics has been national and international so far. If one day other vistas open up, one doesn't want to say no. So that's all.
JMM Congress RJD MLAs check in at a Raipur hotel amidst poaching threat in Jharkhand. This after the Election Commission recommends the disqualification of Chief Minister Hemant Soren over an alleged illegal mining case. Another twist in BJP leader Sonali Phogat's murder case. Family claims Neta's PA poisoned her to snatch her property. Says main accused and PA Sangwan spiked Sonali's food 2 months ago. National Crime Records Bureau data reveals a sharp rise in crimes against women in India. Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru named among the most unsafe. Kolkata the safest city for the country's women. Government to lift caps on domestic airfares from tomorrow. Move expected to give airlines more flexibility to set prices on flight tickets. And Iraq in political turmoil after 30 killed in clashes. Prominent Shia cleric Al-Sadr orders his supporters to not engage in violence. But our top story at the moment is coming from the Supreme Court, which late this evening has ordered a status quo to be maintained at the controversial Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru's Chamrajpet area. Putting aside the Karnataka High Court's verdict, the Supreme Court said it will not allow the Ganesh Chaturthi festival to take place at the Maidan. Remember, the Supreme Court has pointed out that for 200 years the puja wasn't held there. The court has further ordered that the ownership of the land should be decided by the Karnataka High Court. Muslims have been praying on this land on Eid. It was a day of high drama in the Supreme Court with a 2-judge bench failing to arrive at a ruling as they were split. The Chief Justice then set up an additional three-judge bench or a third judge that met and settled the matter late in the evening. The Karnataka Revenue Department and the State Waqf Board are both claiming ownership of the Idgah Maidan land, and this has led to a tussle between the Idgah, the Waqf Board authorities supported by parties like the SDPI and the Karnataka government there, which claim that Ganesh Chaturthi should be allowed. So Anisha Mathur and Nagarjun Dwarkanath are joining us from Delhi at the Supreme Court and in Bengaluru, where the security has been tightened. First to you, Anisha. It is almost unprecedented that you have a situation where late till this evening, the Supreme Court gets into the act and decides that finally status quo, a third judge had to be brought in. It was a two-judge bench. A third judge had to be brought in. What was the main reasoning the court gave for deciding that Ganesh celebrations cannot be held?
Well, Rajdeep, it wasn't a third judge that was brought into the first two-judge bench. It was a three-judge bench that was separately constituted. Earlier, for 2 hours, Justice Hemant Gupta and Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia heard the matter, and because those two judges could not come to a conclusion, a three-judge bench of Justices Indra Banerjee, M.M. Sundaresh and A.S. Oka heard the matter after 4:30 p.m. till almost 6:30 p.m. Now, the issue before the court was really that the Karnataka state government has argued that because the Idgah ground is an open ground, it is a Sarkari land, and therefore it is for the government of the state to give permission for religious or cultural functions of any religion at that ground. The Idgah, the Central Muslim Association and the Idgah management and the Waqf Board of Karnataka have opposed this argument of the Karnataka government, saying that it is an Idgah and it has been recognized in the Idgah for more than 200 years. It is there in the land record since 1870s. Now, and along with this entire legal land dispute comes the issue of the religious political drama that is playing out in Karnataka, where the demand was made that a Ganesh Chaturthi festival should be held at that Idgah ground. The court, of course, specifically questioned, has any religious observance apart from Ramzan and Bakrid been held on those grounds for the last 200 years? It was a categorical answer from the Karnataka state government that no such functions have ever been held in the last several decades. Right. However, they also attempted to argue that just because something has not happened there so far does not mean it can't happen now. The court, of course, did not accept that argument and said status quo should be maintained. The issue of the legal ownership can be decided by the Karnataka High Court.
Okay, let me go to Nagarjun. Nagarjun, is security again being tightened? Is this the latest religious flashpoint in Karnataka, which goes to the polls early next year? Who are the groups who are demanding that Ganesh Puja be held on this specific ground?
Rajdeep, the security deployment still remains to be the same. 3 DCP level officers, rapid action force, SWAT teams with complete ammunition and riot gear are at the Idgah Maidan ground. Even though Supreme Court has put in status quo, the security deployment has not been reduced because it is communally sensitive area. Police already have information that the minority might come near the Idgah Maidan and burst crackers, and that might provoke the Hindu groups, and that's the reason security deployment continues to be the same. Regarding the question as who wanted to install the Ganesh Pendal in Idgah ground, it is a local organization called Chamrajpet Association. In Kannada, it's called Chamrajpete Okkuta. This is a local Hindu group association in Chamrajpet area where in Bengaluru the Ganesh festival wanted to be celebrated. They're the ones who wrote to C.T. Ravi first, General Secretary BJP, saying please recommend to the state government, asking them to give us permission. It all started here when C.T. Ravi wrote to the Chief Minister saying, please grant permission because the land belongs to the government. Subsequently, the minority groups also went to the High Court seeking justice, and then the government appealed. Finally, today, the ball was in the Supreme Court where the court said status quo has to be maintained. But in the next 3 days, starting from tomorrow, Ganesh Chaturthi, all eyes will be still at Idgah Maidan because you never know what happens in a communally sensitive area, because Hindu groups wanted to install the idol there inside the ground, but as per Supreme Court, they will have to wait till the legal battle is over.
Okay. From Bengaluru and Delhi, Nagarjun and Anisha, appreciate your joining us. Now, all of this comes on a day or days where Bengaluru has a real crisis. Floods. Large parts of Karnataka and indeed southern Karnataka as well as Kerala are experiencing heavy flood. Now look at the governance priorities. Here is the Supreme Court hearing an Idgah Maidan, whether Ganesh Puja should be allowed or not. On the ground, as you can see, large parts of Bengaluru, areas around Whitefield, other low-lying areas have experienced flood waters over the last 48 hours with water logging. So you have two images. Remember, over the last few days, we've seen potholes increasing also in Bengaluru along with water logging. And there you have this large security presence at the Idgah Maidan, where this battle is taking place over whether Ganesh Puja should be allowed tomorrow or not, with the Supreme Court eventually stepping in. Let me also tell you that let's take a look at that, how incessant rains are wreaking havoc in Karnataka. Take a look at this story.
Roads submerged in water. Traffic caught in massively waterlogged streets. Life coming to halt. Bengalurians left in knee-deep water. India's Silicon City getting drowned in rain woes after heavy showers lashed the city. IT hub of India, Bengaluru, which often sees pothole nightmare on roads, struggled after heavy downpour. Roads turned rivers, exposed the government claims of a world-class metropolis.
It is BTM layout and Madiwala area. This street is completely inundated after 48 hours of non-stop rain. You can see to what extent the water logging is. This gate to my right was completely submerged. Also, the water levels have come down. The BBMP and the fire department have constantly been working to remove the water and drain it back to the lake or the drain here. How bad has been the rain here, and how much did you see the water logging in your house?
So bad. Water came to our house only, and insects are coming inside, and the garbage is piling up. Everything is bad, so bad. We are not able to go to office.
Not just the super posh areas of Bengaluru, highways leading to the city were also submerged. The heavy rainfall effectively shut down the expansive national highway that links Bengaluru and Mysuru. Passengers were evacuated from buses and cars in rainwater. The Met Department forecasts cloudy skies and light to moderate rainfall in Bengaluru till Thursday. Similar scenes were seen in Ramanagara as well, where flash floods claimed lives of at least 2 while rendering thousands homeless. In Tumakuru, the roads and villages are inundated. Roads connecting Basavahalli village were washed away. Hubli too faced similar rain pain. With Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
So I want to reflect on two contrasting images at the top. Infrastructure collapsing, as you saw, even as religious polarization continues. Is Karnataka caught in religious tangles, and is this in a sense symbolic of what's happening in some other parts? What really matters to you or us as citizens? Vikas or identity politics? Those are some of the questions I want to raise. Mohandas Pai is someone who's been a face of Bengaluru for years, raises these civic issues from time to time. I'm joined by Katyani Chamraj. She's Executive Trustee at Civic Bengaluru. Aishwarya Mahadev is Congress spokesperson, and Mohan Vishwa is BJP spokesperson. But I want to come to you, Mohandas Pai, first, because here you are seeing two different images. My top story, Idgah Maidan, whether Ganesh Puja should take place or not, battle goes to the Supreme Court. And on the ground, what is happening in Bengaluru? The city seems to be collapsing because of rainfall. Is this a case of misplaced priorities? Is there an attempt to sort of find religious issues that polarize people and distract people from the real issues, which is collapsing infrastructure?
You know, Radhi, there are two different issues. I don't think we should link them. Please remember, the Ganesh Chaturthi Chamarajnagar property issue has been going on for some time in the courts. And only today read the Supreme Court. Supreme Court gave a decision, whatever it is. I don't think we should link. This has happened because of heavy rain. The basic problem in Bangalore is the breakdown of governance in the city. We have a city corporation which is ineffective, which has been captured by the real estate mafia consisting of the corporators, where there are MLAs in that particular area were extorting money, were not bothered. We are not then, contractors have not been paid for 2 years for work done, and there are allegations that huge bribes are being taken. Bangalore has been mismanaged for the last 15, 20 years. I've spoken to 5 chief ministers of Bangalore for the last 20 years to improve. Everybody has said yes. Everybody has spent money, but where are the money gone? The money has been eaten away largely. Even today, we continue to suffer. There has been no improvement in the quality of life for the last 20 years. The BBMP, which is the corporation, is ineffective. There have been demands to break it up into 5 corporations, the full-time mayor. We have a mayor who is there for 1 year, a ceremonial post. The BBMP has no powers. It's a disgrace. India's global city, India's best city known globally, is suffering its worst crisis and is only getting worse. Go to the chief minister.
But I don't, the priorities. The reason why I link the 2 stories is the priorities. The messaging that comes out of Karnataka's government seems to be to focus at times on religious issues, whether it be a hijab ban, whether it be this Idgah Maidan controversy, instead of the real crisis of civic infrastructure.
Radip, civic infrastructure is a running sword for 20 years. It's not come yesterday, today. It's not come in this government. It was there in the Congress government. It was the JDS government. It's been in all government for 20 years. You know the story in Bangalore. All right? We have a metro which is running beyond schedule. Nobody knows when they're going to install anything. We have a metro which is spending 35,000 crores without a proper project management system. We have a metro run by bureaucrats who probably don't know their job. And look at the Delhi metro, which has been effectively done. Money is being spent, and the chief minister promises to give money, has given money, but is not able to implement on the ground.
So what happens to your status as an IT capital? You are supposed to be India's global city, and in a global city, you are seeing either potholes or flooding taking place almost routinely now.
Radip, it is a shame for India. It is a shame for our government in Delhi. It is a shame for our government in Karnataka. It is a shame for our BBMP that they let down the people of Bangalore who are trying to best to build a great city and bring up India. It's like Bombay. Even your city of Bombay has run down. Anything wrong with Bombay is governance and corruption, right? Deep corruption in Bombay, deep corruption in Bangalore. There is no governance in our cities. That's a challenge all across India. And we all have to get together to improve the governance. The only effective way is to have better governance, reduce the impact of corruption, reduce the hold of the mafias, real estate mafia, the corporate and others who are trying to make money here, and improve the justice system to put them in jail. Radip, our sewage, our road cleaning contract has not been done for the last many years. People are captured there, they've gone to court, there's a stay, and the city is dirty. Money is being spent, but nobody knows where the money goes.
Right.
It's a national disgrace, Radip.
You're saying it's a national disgrace. Katyani Chamaraj, as is being suggested here by Mohandas Pai, it's gone on for the last 20 years. What we saw in Mumbai, and Mumbai also continues to reel under poor urban governance, we are seeing in Bangalore almost being duplicated and, if anything, worsened. Do you see any improvement at all? Do you believe the political class of Karnataka has let the people of Bengaluru down, as I would argue the Maharashtra politicians have let the people of Mumbai down?
Absolutely. I think there is a connection between the religious polarization that is happening and also the breakdown of infrastructure in Bengaluru. And
what's the connection?
What's the connection? What's
the connection? You're saying there's a connection between religious polarization and a breakdown of urban governance?
Because they're totally involved in polarizing the society and in raking up issues which are non-issues, and they're completely ignoring the actual developmental needs of the cities, and there is complete breakdown of governance. So what you see, the flooding that is happening is because of the total breakdown of the planning process in Bengaluru. The planning process is only on paper, and the encroachments are being allowed indiscriminately, which is leading to, Rajakaluways and the lake beds and the stormwater drains all being encroached. and that is why we are having this flooding.
In a way, what you're saying is what I've heard for years in Mumbai as well. Mohan Vishwa, it almost seems to me, you're the BJP spokesperson, your party is in power, that what we saw in Mumbai happen over the years has happened in Bengaluru. The real estate mafias take over. They get support from netas, they get support from local bureaucrats, lots of money is to be made out of it. And to distract people in Mumbai, we saw identity politics played, Marathi Manus politics played. And in Karnataka, we are now seeing religious politics also being played out, when the priority of the government should be to first fix urban governance. I don't think the people of Bengaluru are as worried about whether Ganesh Chaturthi takes place or hijab bans happen. They want first better civic amenities. That should be the priority, Mohan Vishwa, of any government in the 21st century.
Say, Rajdeep, I don't know why you are comparing the both. Who started all these religious issues? Who started hijab? It was the Congress youth team first, which went to the Udupi college, and they were the one who started. Later, SDP was the one who supported them and filed the petition. It was them who started. Post that even Azan issue also, there was an earlier circular which was not followed. Our government just implemented it. And regarding this, Savarkar issue also, who started? It was Mr. Siddaramaiah who went to Shimoga. He was the one who said why Savarkar poster should be put in a minority area. Then he went to Coorg to talk about Tippu Sultan, even after knowing the fact that Tippu was not at all entertained by Coorg people. So they were the one who started. We have not started anything. We are not focusing anything on religious
what happened to your
like
smart?
MD Pai.
What happened? You can't use it as an excuse for failing to deliver on your smart city commitments. You had made various commitments. And at the end of the day, what are we? Contractors are now claiming in Bengaluru they have to pay a 40% commission. So you have to pay a 40% commission.
What do you have? You take Congress, starting from this national leader to state leader, the same allegation was made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi in the case of Rafael. Supreme Court slapped the Congress to the core. And the same allegation was made in the case of Pegasus. There was no basic evidence for the claim.
Contractors Association in Karnataka, sir, Mohan, Contractors Association has claimed that there is a 40% commission on all projects. We have seen in Bengaluru, as Mohan Das Pai said, there are cost overruns. Projects timings are not being met. Instead of focusing on smart cities, urban governance, far too many extraneous issues get far too much importance. Maybe in the media, but maybe also in government.
Rajdeep, Bangalore BBMP recently, Mr. Basaraj Bommaiah allotted 6,500 crores for 28 assembly constituencies. One thing in our government is, it's unfortunate that the average rainfall of Karnataka was 950 millimeters, but from past 4 or 5 months we have experienced more than 1,000 millimeters. That too, Bangalore has the highest rain affected place, okay? And lot of back-to-back infrastructure projects have been taken up in Bangalore city. And one more thing I will tell you, I was talking to one of the BBMP engineers. He said the average temperature of Bangalore have not crossed 23 degrees from past 8 to 9 months, which is leading to certain technical issues, okay? It's not that we are sitting idle or we are not doing anything.
Okay, but the fact, Mohan Das Pai, okay, 1 minute, Mohan. Okay, Mohan Das Pai, you're nodding your head. Before I come to Aishwarya, yes, you want, yes.
Radhip, roads are built in cold weather in England, in the United States where there is snow. I don't know what this chief engineer talks through his head. If you don't put enough tar in the road will cave in. If you do not have a proper slope on the road, water will stand. That is the problem. It is shoddy work, bad work, corrupt work. That is what is happening. There is no supervision. There is no project management. I don't want this person to give excuses.
Okay.
There is a failure of governance. There is a lot of corruption in the city. It must be stopped. This is a governance issue. It must be stopped. It's got nothing to do with religious polarization as far as city of Bangalore is concerned.
Right.
So let us not link the two. There is corruption, bad governance. Yes, Chief Minister Bommaiah has given money. He is trying his best. He is new to the job. And there are no allegations of corruption against him. He is a clean person. But we have a legacy. It must be clean.
Can I bring in Aishwarya Mahadev? Because, Aishwarya, we can go on blaming each. Bengaluru's problems have been built over the last 20 years. S.M. Krishna was your chief minister at the turn of the century. He spoke about making Bengaluru this globalized city. But urban governance is critical to build a globalized city. You want to build a globalized city, and yet you get tied up in the kind of religiously polarizing issues. I recall Kiran Majumdar-Shaw making this point a few months ago when the entire issues over Azan, over whether Muslim traders will be allowed to ply their trade outside religious festivals took place. Karnataka's image is taking a huge beating at the moment, and that leaves the entire question mark as to whether there is any government committed to urban governance.
Good evening, Rajdeep. Before I answer exactly what you said, in 2018, the BJP put out a manifesto where they promised a few certain things. One of them was something, the 24/7 anti-corruption helpline, where if you see any act of corruption, then, you should call the government and the government will take action. Thank God for the BJP that they never implemented it, because the phone line would be ringing off the hook because of the sort of excesses and the sort of corruption and graft in my state today. Along with that same anti-corruption helpline, they spoke about having, an exclusive act just for Bangalore city, just for Bangalore infrastructure. They made massive promises on whether it was the steel flyover or whether it was the railway network. And you've seen exactly what has happened today. Instead of development, you're seeing thousands and thousands of crores going into corruption. You're seeing a KPTCL scam, a PSI scam. You see teachers, 13,000 school, members of 13,000 schools in Bangalore have alleged corruption. The BBMP goes 10% ahead and says it's not 40%, it's 50%. And that is the reality of my state today, Rajdeep.
Aishwarya, some of these commission charges were made when Mr. Siddaramaiah was also Chief Minister. It's not as if Karnataka's politics only changed in 2018.
Rajdeep, let me tell you, for as much as Mr. Modi came and spoke about a 10% government and whatnot, you have not seen the BJP even come out and have half as much courage to say they are not as corrupt as a government. Mohan Vishwa can laugh, yes, but what is more funny and what is pitiable is the fact that the BJP cannot govern itself today whatsoever. And this is the state of infrastructure in my state. And if you look at Chanpatna, where the highway authority is building that much touted Bangalore-Mysore highway, that is only Pratap Simha's only singular achievement as being a parliamentarian. You've seen thousands of crores of loss and the government is doing nothing. And today, Rajdeep, I will come down to the most essential fact. Why are they playing into these ideas of century-old established practices of religious places, or even causing this entire idea of a communal divide? Is because they have learned from the playbook itself. Is when you have no development, you go on those base common feelings or those emotive agendas. And that is what is happening today. It is an us versus them narrative. So much so that youngsters are cannon fodder today, Rajdeep.
Even as we are speaking at the moment, Mohan Vishwa, we started the show with the Idgah Maidan controversy in Bengaluru. Now the controversy has spread to Hubli, where it's existed for a long time, where again we have the prospect tomorrow of Ganesh Chaturthi, Muslim and Hindu groups face to face coming in and the Supreme Court having to step in. Now Karnataka government could have said status quo. The Karnataka government also appeared keen to try and somehow or the other make this, push the idea that allow Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations to take place on the Idgah Maidan. Now these are all sensitive issues. My point is, these issues need to be settled between the religious groups. The government's job should be governance, which includes first fixing urban infrastructure. I am only talking of priorities. Would you concede that the top priority of a government should be to fix the urban infrastructure?
See, Rajdeep, that's what, when I was continuing my talk, just cut in between. See, there were certain natural issues, I do agree, okay? As far as I said, there was a heavy rainfall, a lot of infrastructure practices or the projects have been taking place in Bangalore, rather other part of the state also, okay? So it's not that we are not doing anything. We are spending enough money. We are taking care of every infrastructure project. And, when Congress spokesperson said about ACB, I don't know what to say. Mr. Siddaramaiah was the one, when he came to power in 2013, who took the nail and teeth of Lokayukta just for the sake of enjoying corruption in his government. Now it's we are government based on High Court's direction who are strengthening Lokayukta. Come on, in case of 40% corruption also, openly I'm challenging even now, if that contract association president have a judge, let him go to Lokayukta. Who is Mr. Siddaramaiah? Is Siddaramaiah a Lokayukta judge? Is Siddaramaiah a
Forget all of
judge?
that.
Or is
What are you
Siddaramaiah a
doing?
criminal
Stop
court
thinking
judge?
about
Or
the
is he a
past.
Supreme
Ask
Court
him
judge?
to talk
What
about
is going
today and
Okay, let me just bring down the volume for a moment. No cross talk, but I want to understand this. Ma'am, you've been in in the field, Ms. Chamar, for years. You know, you and your organizations. Are you seeing any change, Katyani Chamar? Are you seeing more responses from your corporators, or are the corporators in Bengaluru completely disconnected from these issues? They just want to make sure when they are in power how to make a quick buck. It's not about trying to give back and invest in the future of Bengaluru.
Absolutely. And also the state government trying to catch hold of total control over Bengaluru's finances and revenues. So they're not allowing the local government to function well also. They're not giving them the finances or the functionaries to perform well, because the MLAs want to keep Bengaluru under their charge. So the BJP spokesperson said that 6,000 crores is being given to Bengaluru. But if 40% of that is going away as commission, what kind of infrastructure are they going to provide to us?
Okay, this
So,
40% figure of commissions is sticking in people's mind. You know, Mohandas Pai, let's come to where we started off. I started off by saying there are these emotive issues like the Idgah Maidan, and that calls for a separate debate whether Ganesh Puja should be allowed on a place where Eid is allowed. Is it a public land? These are all issues that courts will have to eventually take a call on, not on the last day before Ganesh Chaturthi, but well in advance. But you know, the larger question is the messaging that goes on to the wider world. When you want to be a global city, you don't want to be caught in issues like hijab ban, azan, ban on Muslim traders. It sends out the wrong messaging to the wider world. The wider world wants to know, how are you a 21st century ready city? Not that when rainfall comes, there are potholes across the city.
The bad infrastructure has been plaguing for Bangalore for more than 20 years. Every government we have had has been corrupt. They've been making money. And I like this, both these party spokesmen pointing fingers at each other, because both have been corrupt. They make the money through these corporators, through the projects. Now, for the last 2 years, we are told that money has not been paid to contractors. Somebody should investigate what are the works for which they have made a bill for which has not been paid. Where are the works? And you'll find many of the works never exist. And that has been going on for a long period of time. To take a power connection, you have to pay a bribe in the earlier government. You know, all government, let us not blame one government with the other. Both have been equally corrupt. The key thing is we have to fix the governance of Bangalore. Bangalore has had a bad track record of bad infrastructure the last many years. Our lives have got worse year after year after year. We do not see hope. Our metro, which is supposed to come, is been delayed. We have bad governance in the metro. We need action. And that is the only solution. As far as all these events, that will continue. That is not going to go down, because political parties always raise emotional issues to get their votes.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that political parties raise emotional issues to get votes. I wish that political parties try to fight elections on who will solve the pothole problem. Yes, Aishwarya, I'll give you a final word.
You know, Rajdeep, I think it's not only political parties that do talk about things about religion or divisive terms. A lot of Bangaloreans, and also very prolific ones, who I'm very sure Mr. Mohandas Pai himself, or maybe himself also know, is the fact that they also have made very disparaging and divisive statements over time. But once it starts affecting them personally, is when they come out and this civic consciousness kicks in. The fact of the matter today is my state is in an abysmal and pathetic situation. And the only thing the BJP has to offer you is a controversy of somebody's Maidan, or what somebody wears, or what the loudspeakers are playing, or what you're eating, or what is in your fridge. This is very reminiscent of something that happened in a state up north. And you saw the manner and the trajectory of those elections. But the Karnataka Congress is very fit and fine to fight against this on the agenda of development. And I believe we're going to fight
She has hit you, Mohandas, a little where it hurts. She's saying, you know, your civic consciousness is only coming out now. You should be focusing on that instead of getting into these religious tangles at times yourself.
Rajdeep, I don't know who this person is. I can't see anybody on your...
She's Aishwarya Mahadev.
Let me tell you, we have been talking about infrastructure more than 20 years. I don't know who this person is, who she is, what she is doing. She must not make such stupid statements. And you know, it is the Congress party we did that Tipu Jayanti. Was Tipu Jayanti necessary? Tipu is a
The
killer.
Tipu Jayanti was first started by the BJP, sir. Do your research. I may be a nobody, but at least I can Google.
Please keep quiet. Tipu was a killer. He has killed the
It was started by Mr.
he has killed the Konkanis, he has killed the Mango Christians.
Okay, let's leave it there. I think let's all get the civic spirit. Let's all get the. Okay, I'm not. Today will not be a day where we will focus on religion. I hope those images of Bangalore collapsing at least force people to realize that a city which promised to be a global city is a sinking city today. And that isn't a good message to send out at a time when you want to become, as I said, a city of the future. I thank my panelists. Karnataka elections are coming in a few months, so the religious temperatures will rise. Vote bank politics is what they call it. I thank all my guests for joining me. Let's turn to the other focus that I have tonight. The rage over the murder of a minor girl by her stalker in Jharkhand that continues to grow. Today, the Jharkhand High Court stepped in and sought a detailed report from the DGP of Jharkhand on the horrific story of Ankita. Here is a detailed report.
जैसे उसके लिए अभी हम मर रहे हैं उसको भी वही सजा हो जाए
आप ऐसा चाहती
हाँ
On August 23rd, a minor schoolgirl was burnt alive by a stalker in Jharkhand's Dumka. She succumbed to her injuries 5 days later. The suspect Shah Rukh Hussain is in police custody. Outrage over this brazen crime has spread across the country. The Jharkhand High Court has taken cognizance of Ankita's murder and summoned the DGP.
फॉरेंसिक की भी टीम आई है, सीआईडी के प्रभारी भी आए हुए हैं और एडीजी हेडक्वार्टर भी आए हुए हैं। इन्हीं के परीक्षण निर्देशन में अनुसंधान हो रहा है।
The National Commission of Protection of Child Rights too has stepped in. It is sending a team to Dumka. The BJP has trained its guns on Jharkhand government, accusing Chief Minister Hemant Soren of appeasement politics.
शर्म आनी चाहिए ऐसे अपराध करने के बाद या अपराध करने का अवसर झारखंड की लापरवाह सरकार ने दिया है। अगर वह सरकार ने समय से कार्रवाई की होती तो उस बेटी के साथ ऐसी घटना नहीं घट सकती थी। उसको समय से इलाज मिला होता तो शायद उसका जीवन नहीं समाप्त होता।
The demand for swift justice is getting bigger, with Ankita's family and citizens calling for the death penalty.
यही चाहते हैं मेरी बहन, मेरी छोटी बहन मेरे आपके सामने तरफ तरफ की मारी, उसको भी इससे भी बड़ी सजा मिले, फांसी भी उसके लिए करूं। अंकिता का जो हत्यारा शाहरुख हुसैन है, उसको तो जल्द से जल्द फांसी की सजा हो। तो हम लोग का हवाले कीजिए, अगर उसको फांसी अगर कानून नहीं करेगा तो हम लोग उसको जलाएंगे।
The Supreme Court has laid down the criteria for awarding the death penalty in the 80s. Capital punishment is given in the rarest of the rare crimes. Many experts feel that Ankita's murder is a fit case for death penalty. Bureau Report, India Today.
So does this case where Shah Rukh Hussain stalked Ankita and eventually poured petrol on her, killed her, she died of her injuries, does it constitute the rarest of rare? What should be the yardstick for death penalty? Is really the death penalty an effective deterrent? Joining me now, Aman Lekhi, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court and former Additional Solicitor General, and Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate. Let me get both of you in first. Do you believe, Sanjay Hegde, this constitutes rarest of rare case? That's what I heard Abhishek Manu Singhvi tweet, or I saw Abhishek Manu Singhvi tweet, that this is a fit case to be seen as a death penalty case, stalking leading to murder in this manner?
Well, first, Rajiv, let me make a confession. I have been a prosecutor. I got about 10 death sentences confirmed from the Supreme Court. But thereafter, I've had a rethink. I don't think the death penalty works. Your viewers may also remember that I was the amicus curiae in the Nirbhaya matter. That means this case is a horrible case. The girl suffered. Condign punishment is due. And I have no doubt that it will be administered. But the phrase rarest of rare is capable of much interpretation. And we should not necessarily say just rarest of rare. The entire sentence reads, the rarest of rare cases where the lesser alternative is unquestionably foreclosed. So very often courts look not only at the facts of the case, but they also look at the offender. Sometimes they say that the offender is a young person who was misled, who was in some passion, or there are several factors which come into the play at the sentencing stage. I would not want just outrage to take over and right from the beginning you say rarest of rare, go for the death penalty. That creates a kind of mob mentality which is not quite in consonance with the rule of law.
So just to clarify, you were amicus curiae in the Nirbhaya case. There you pushed for the death penalty. In this case,
no, I did not.
You did not push. You did not push for the death penalty.
No. I was an amicus appointed to assist the court insofar as the defense of the.
Do you believe that was a fit case for the death penalty?
Rajiv, I have thought about it long, and I think that I would say the rarest of rare cases is only a case like Kasab, where keeping the man alive would invite further terrorist attacks.
Okay.
But otherwise, in no other case would I support the death penalty.
Aman Lekhi, criteria for rarest of rare, as I look at the Machi Singh versus State of Punjab case that became in a sense the landmark case, manner of commission of murder, motive for murder, socially abhorrent nature, intensity of crime, character of murder victim. Do you believe that Ankita's case in Jharkhand fits this criteria? A woman stalked by a man and eventually doused with petrol and burnt to death?
Yes, I think this case will come in that category. But let me just preface what I'm going to say with a bit of introductory remarks. First, let's see. Law makes a distinction between culpable homicide and culpable homicide amounting to murder. Now, insofar as death is concerned, and 302 deals with murder. For murder, what's necessary is both intention or knowledge. In this particular case, intention and knowledge is both there. So this is unquestionably a case of murder. Now, notwithstanding it being a case of murder, as Sanjay has correctly pointed out, sentencing is bifurcated. And it's bifurcated, so notwithstanding the nature of the offence, it's not necessary that in every offence death be awarded. For the purpose of awarding the death, what you see is the extenuating circumstances, if any, and on a balance of aggravating, mitigating circumstances field, whether the penalty is proportionate. Now, the proportionate nature of the penalty will go to the criminal, the circumstances of the crime, and also the nature in which it is committed, the circumstances which you just pointed out. In this particular case, I feel it will fit the bill, subject, of course, the court examining it, because what is at play is a social construct. What we see today is a misogynist attitude and a patriarchal mindset which is in some ways timing society. I will keep religion out of it because as far as this aspect is concerned, this is across religions. We have an irrepressible sexual urge in a male and a sense of entitlement in a male, and the male assumes to himself an authority over a woman because there is an understanding of element of subordination when the woman is concerned. And because this is more or less current in a societal milieu, the purpose of law is basically to teach what is acceptable and what is not. And in this particular case, the sanction becomes a very important method for putting the right lesson across.
No, so is death a deterrent?
Case,
so Mr. Lekhi, is death a deterrent? Because look, in this country, and NCRB data which has come out has also shown that crimes against women have increased. There is a rape that is committed every 16 minutes as per the previous NCRB data. Would death in a case like this be a deterrent, or is this case being decided because of the outrage? As Sanjay Hegde said, outrage cannot be a criteria to decide rarest of rare.
Absolutely. I completely endorse the view. I completely agree with Sanjay. We are governed by rule of law and vengeance has got no role. But let me correct you where this is concerned, Rajdeep. Question of deterrence is one aspect of penology. Apart from deterrence, the necessity of a punishment is also important, and the necessity of punishment goes beyond deterrence. Now, notwithstanding the fact that death is a penalty, if a rabid accused is yet not deterred, then all the more reason law has to intervene to impose the punishment so as to put such brazen behavior in check. So the fact that death has not been a deterrent to the person concerned doesn't necessarily mean that the circumstances warrant death should be imposed. For the person not being deterred, he not be subject to the punishment. Okay. You don't impose the punishment because you are in any way outraged or out of sense of vengeance or by a reason of revenge. It is retributory. There's a difference between retribution and revenge. One goes to rule of law and the other goes to private vengeance. When you are dealing with penal law structures a response to an offense to fashion a sentence which is appropriate. You may call it any name, but as long as it is proportionate and appropriate to the crime, it is warranted.
So is it
and on the prima facie understanding of what this case is,
yes, go ahead.
On a prima facie, I mean, Sanjay is absolutely right. We cannot rush into a judgment. But on the basis of whatever information is there, if these facts are correct, in my opinion, in a case like this, death should be a punishment, not a case of special, because now we have a special punishment also after Sriharan and Shraddhanand, where you can put a person, make a person remain in custody for life without remission. Because that is an alternative to death, because sometimes the court is not sure whether death is appropriate because the person came out in 14 years. But I personally feel a case like this, considering the social milieu in which we are, to send a message across and to keep men in check, because it's high time men remain in check. I personally feel, as far as this particular case is concerned, the facts are right, that would be appropriate.
Okay, you think that would be appropriate? Sanjay Hegde, quick final word. You don't think it would be appropriate just going by outrage? You think a life imprisonment perhaps is with no remission could be a stronger message?
Yes, Aman mentioned the Shraddhanand case. That too was a case which I prosecuted, and it was in after that it was laid down as a matter of law that as an alternative to the death penalty, you could say that the person would spend the rest of his life in prison without the option of remission.
Okay.
And that sometimes is much more appropriate. I do remember Mr. Ram Jethmalani catching me after that judgment and saying, what a cruel judgment you've got. I, for one, would prefer an instant hanging to lingering on in the prison. Okay. So it's not as if that life in prison without remission has no deterrent value.
Okay, so let's leave it there. So
that
clearly,
it might be more appropriate.
Okay, you two views. Aman Lekhi believes that the case of Ankita and Shahrukh Hussain is an appropriate case where Shahrukh should possibly, on the prima facie facts, be handed the death penalty. And Sanjay Hegde believes life without remission is perhaps the appropriate penalty. And remember, in this context, Bilkis Bano, gang rape, her son killed, a 3-year-old child, daughter killed in front of her. Her convicts have got remission after 15 days. That's, of course, another debate. No whataboutery today. We want each and every case to be prosecuted to ensure that it has sufficient deterrent value. Aman Lekhi, Sanjay Hegde, appreciate your joining me here tonight on the News Today. Let's take a break on the show. On the other side, our Good News Today story. It comes from Lucknow. You're watching the News Today. News without the noise.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
Oh, sorry.
काम किया है जी, काम करेंगे, लोग हमें यूं ही बदनाम करेंगे, हमारी वजह से दिल्ली वाले हंस रहे हैं जी, समझ नहीं आ रहा फिर हमारे लोग क्यों फंस रहे हैं जी। क्या हुआ जी, आप इतने खास आदमी क्यों हो रहे हैं? बड़ी मुश्किल है जी, खोया मेरा दिल है जी, कोई मेरे दिल को समझाए ना। ईडी सीबीआई से बचूं और बचाऊं कैसे, बिल्कुल समझ आए ना। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी, बताओ ना कोई। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी।
झाड़ू लेकर आया था तो झाड़ू लेकर जाएगा, सबका नंबर आएगा भाई, सबका नंबर आएगा।
जो होगा वो देख लेंगे, हम तो तैयार हैं जी।
आरोप कोई लगा ले, हम तो कट्टर ईमानदार हैं जी। नमस्कार जी।
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
To tonight's Get Real India story, a big child trafficking racket has been busted in Uttar Pradesh. This after a video emerged of a man stealing an infant at a railway station went viral. Shockingly, the baby who was stolen was later found at the home of a BJP corporator in Faizabad. Guess what? The corporator and her husband had paid 1.8 lakh rupees for the baby because they wanted a son. Get Real India.
There's no way you would have missed this viral video that stunned, shocked and broke your heart. The stealth with which a man in the dead of night picks up an infant and walks away. These CCTV visuals from the night of August 23rd at the Mathura railway station are chilling. A man appearing to pass by the child who's sleeping with his mother. Moments later, he comes back and scoops the child up and makes a dash. The CCTV camera captured him running towards a train stationed on the platform. The 7-month-old baby has been found 100 kilometers away from where he was picked up.
वहाँ से जो बच्चा चुराने के बाद जो यहाँ पे दीपू नामक जो जिसने बच्चा को चुराया था, वो अपने यहाँ से पहले ऑटो से फिर बस से वो पहले हाथरस वो गया। हाथरस में जाकर के जो भी इसके टीम के जो भी इसके गिरोह के लोग थे उनके साथ इनकी मीटिंग हुई थी। जो इनको बेचना था जिससे उसके साथ ऑलरेडी इनकी पहली मीटिंग हो चुकी थी। फिर उनको बुलाया गया, बुला करके फिर बच्चे को उनको सपोर्ट वो किया गया था। आपको मालूम नहीं पड़ा जब वो ले गए उठा के?
नहीं पड़ा था, फिर मैंने दिन में देखा नहीं, फिर मेरी चीज़ जब मेरे को पता पड़ा
सुबह मालूम पड़ा। उसके बाद फिर क्या किया आपने?
पुलिस वाले को बताई थी हमने आकर।
फिर
पुलिस वाले ने कैमरा चालू करके उसमें देखा, फिर सीधा ही पता लगा कि बच्चा कोई एक आदमी लेके जा रहा है। यहाँ के पुलिस वाले बहुत अच्छे हैं, हमारी मदद कर दी, हमारा बच्चा वापस ला दिया।
He was found from a BJP corporator's house in Firozabad. With this recovery, the Uttar Pradesh cops have cracked a well-oiled syndicate that steals and sells children. But the fact that a BJP corporator bought a child is not lost on anyone. BJP corporator Vinita Agarwal and her husband had allegedly bought the boy for 1.8 lakh rupees from 2 doctors who were part of a larger gang as they wanted a son. The couple already has a daughter. 8 people have been arrested, including the BJP corporator and the man Deep Kumar, who was caught on the security camera picking up the child from the platform.
8 लोग इसमें अरेस्ट हुए हैं और ये जानकारी हुई है कि कुछ और बच्चों को भी इन्होंने बेचा है। अब किसको बेचा है, कहां से वो बच्चे आए थे, इसका भी हम लोग इन्वेस्टिगेशन में उसको शामिल कर रहे हैं, इसीलिए इसमें धारा भी बढ़ाई गई है।
The 7-month-old boy has since been handed over to his parents, but the sheer brazenness of the crime and the involvement of a BJP corporator has left India stunned. Bureau Report, India Today.
Absolute shocker there from Faizabad and UP. But some good news. Let's end with good news today. Mothers of cancer survivors have now come together to start a food processing unit also in Uttar Pradesh. I leave you tonight with an inspiring story of self-reliance and, dare I say, Nari Shakti in its truest form. You stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar.
These women working at a food processing unit in Lucknow have one thing common. They are all mothers of cancer survivors. Hit by the COVID crisis, which led to the shutdown of many small-scale industries, these mothers joined hands to earn enough to take care of their children's medical expenses. For this, they have to thank Sapna Upadhyay, a social worker who saw their plight and took the initiative to start a spice factory.
कर्म करो, आगे बढ़ते चलो, हम साथ हैं, आगे बढ़ते चलो, क्योंकि केवल एक ईश्वर है जिस पे हमने विश्वास करके मदद का हाथ बढ़ाया था इन महिलाओं के लिए, और इसीलिए हम कभी गिव अप नहीं करेंगे, नेवर गिव अप.
Starting out with perishable spices, the small-scale entrepreneurs soon started making products with longer shelf life. New machines were installed, staff strength increased, and incomes also rose. Vinita, mother of a cancer survivor, now saves money to help her daughter chase her dream of becoming a doctor.
ट्रीटमेंट शुरू हो गया, अब इतना खर्चा आ गया और मेरी एक चाय की छोटी सी दुकान, हम लोग कहेंगे इतना खर्चा कहाँ से लाएंगे, तब भी मतलब हिम्मत जुटाते रहे. हमको काम दिया, काम करने के लिए सहारा दिया, एक बहुत बड़ी हिम्मत जुटाई कि लेकिन तुम लोग हिम्मत रहे और हम तुम्हारा साथ हैं. मैं मेरी बिटिया को भी पढ़ा देंगे, मेरे बेटे को पढ़ा देंगे, मेरा बेटा भी आगे बढ़ जाएगा, मेरी बिटिया भी आगे बढ़ जाएगी.
Now that the Swarm Spices has been registered by the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Industries, the happiness of these mothers knows no bounds.
बहुत खुश हैं हम, और सब महिलाओं को काम बताती हैं कि धीरे धीरे जो नई महिलाएं आती जाती हैं तो उनको सबको हम बताते हैं काम कि ऐसे न ऐसे करो, और बहुत खुश रहते हैं.
These mothers are self-reliant today and also have each other's support in managing day-to-day tasks and personal duties. Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Sorry.
काम किया है जी, काम करेंगे, लोग हमें यूं ही बदनाम करेंगे, हमारी वजह से दिल्ली वाले हंस रहे हैं जी, समझ नहीं आ रहा फिर हमारे लोग क्यों फंस रहे हैं जी. क्या हुआ जी, आप इतने खास आदमी क्यों हो रहे हैं? बड़ी मुश्किल है जी, खोया मेरा दिल है जी, कोई मेरे दिल को समझाए ना. ईडी सीबीआई से बचूं और बचाऊं कैसे, बिल्कुल समझ आए ना. मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी, बताओ ना कोई. मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी.
झाड़ू लेकर आया था तो झाड़ू लेकर जाएगा, सबका नंबर आएगा भाई, सबका नंबर आएगा.
जो होगा वो देख लेंगे, हम तो तैयार हैं जी. आरोप कोई लगा ले, हम तो कट्टर ईमानदार हैं जी. नमस्कार जी.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
So sorry.
काम किया है जी, काम करेंगे, लोग हमें यूं ही बदनाम करेंगे, हमारी वजह से दिल्ली वाले हंस रहे हैं जी, समझ नहीं आ रहा फिर हमारे लोग क्यों फंस रहे हैं जी। क्या हुआ जी, आप इतने खास आदमी क्यों हो रहे हैं? बड़ी मुश्किल है जी, खोया मेरा दिल है जी, कोई मेरे दिल को समझाए ना। ईडी सीबीआई से बचूं और बचाऊं कैसे, बिल्कुल समझ आए ना। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी, बताओ ना कोई। मैं रोऊं या हंसूं, करूं मैं क्या करूं जी।
झाड़ू लेकर आया था तो झाड़ू लेकर जाएगा, सबका नंबर आएगा भाई, सबका नंबर आएगा।
जो होगा वो देख लेंगे, हम तो तैयार हैं जी। आरोप कोई लगा ले, हम तो कट्टर ईमानदार हैं जी। नमस्कार जी।
You are watching India Today.
Top story. The Supreme Court has ordered status quo be maintained at the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru's Chamrajpet. Putting aside the Karnataka High Court's verdict, the Supreme Court did not allow Ganesh Chaturthi festival to take place at the Maidan. The Supreme Court pointed out that for 200 years the puja wasn't held there. The court further ordered the ownership of the land be decided by the Karnataka High Court. It was a day of high drama in the court. First, a two-judge bench failed to arrive at a ruling as they were split. The Chief Justice then set up a three-judge bench that met and settled the matter this evening. The Karnataka Revenue Department and the State Waqf Board are both claiming ownership of the Idgah Maidan land.
Well, yes, a status quo has been ordered by the Supreme Court of India on this issue, which means that there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. But a larger issue of legal, political and religious question has been raised in this case, which will now be considered by the Karnataka High Court. What is the power of the state to allow the religious functions of another religion in a place that has been claimed by a particular religion? Who exactly owns that Idgah property which the state is now laying claim to? Is the is it Waqf property? Does it belong to the state? And more importantly, as the Karnataka Waqf Board and the Idgah management has raised, why has the Karnataka government suddenly woken up and changed its stance when there was no claim to this land for hundreds of years? Why is it that just when elections are coming up, this kind of a religious issue is being raised? The Supreme Court, of course, has said that when you did not have any function there for 200 years, why can't you wait for just a few more days? That was the observation from the bench headed by Justice Indira Banerjee, which has now issued status quo order. Interestingly, the Karnataka government trying its best to get permission to hold Ganesh Chaturthi at that particular Idgah ground itself, with even the Solicitor General arguing that the court should allow the government to hold Ganesh Chaturthi puja. The court, however, was not impressed by these arguments, and there will be no Ganesh Chaturthi festival at the Bengaluru Idgah grounds. However, the larger question still remains, and a lot of political and religious war of words has happened in the state.
Over 3 days after he was booked for allegedly raping minors, the Murugu Mutt Seer is still free. He's not been arrested, continues to be at his mutt in Chitradurga. This despite being charged under the POCSO Act. What is even more shocking is that political parties are silent on the issue.
Allegations of rape against prominent Lingayat Mutt Seer Shivamurthy Murugasharanaru have rocked Karnataka. The pontiff of Jagat Guru Murugarajendra Vidyapeeth Mutt is booked under Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act for the alleged rape of 2 minor girls staying at the school hostel attached to the mutt. It's been over 3 days since the case was filed, but the suspect roams free at his Chitradurga mutt despite charges under POCSO Act being a non-bailable offence.